pledge by Commissioner Anderson.
If you would please pray with me. Father, I ask that you would just help us today. We acknowledge you, that you are our strength and you're our hope. And I just ask that you would just remove the stresses of the day, clear our minds to do the business of the people of Anderson County. Help us to have hearts that are full of servitude and gratitude and love and gentleness toward each other. Father, I pray that you would help us in making wise decisions and looking into you for the answers for those things that seem unanswerable. It is in Jesus' name that I ask these things. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda.
I have a change.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes, I do have a change.
Okay.
I believe that we all want to protect children. However, Commissioner Beauchamp communicated aspects of my resolution, number 2311-1128, that pained her personally. And I want to thank Commissioner Beauchamp for bringing that to my attention. And out of respect and consideration for Commissioner Beauchamp, I will withdraw my resolution from the operations agenda in order to allow the time and opportunity to work with Commissioner Beauchamp toward addressing her heartfelt concerns.
Okay, and that's number 4 under the Law Director's report.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other changes? Commissioner Anderson?
If we could, just under new business, add a discussion about the drought conditions and possibly reaching out to the Congressman Flashman's office
Okay.
for some drought assistance. Thank you.
All right, and then under Brookstone subdivision, want to add resolution number 23-11-1135. I think Jay's handed that out to everybody. And then 5 and 11 is really the same thing, but Joe Barrett from the state's supposed to come, and so we'll just, if he's not here, we'll just skip 5 and take that up at 11. Any other changes? All in favor is amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the appearance of citizens. Have anyone that'd like to speak for anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. So that's number 5, so we're going to drop that down. So next is Brookstone Ridge subdivision, request by Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Vandergrift.
Everybody got a copy of this? Tracy, you got it?
We'll share.
It's all right, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Just to give everybody a little background, Commissioner Vandergrift and I had, of course, everybody's heard some issues that the residents in Brookstone have been having for a few months. So we met with about 24 residents with Jay, and he kind of brought everybody on the same page about the issues with what TDOT had said, that initially they said don't issue permits, and they said they legally can't stop that from happening. So he kind of brought everybody up to speed. Gary Long and Gary's put a couple road signs up that people have requested, and we're going to get together and kind of look where they'd like to have a school bus stop sign and a couple other signs in the neighborhood. So he's taking care of that. But one thing that the neighborhood really wanted to, and they asked specifically that commission would do this, is they wanted some assurance from TDOT as far as what's the basically just that TDOT's kind of going to supervise that process, that construction process, and they want TDOT to do everything they can to try to encourage having that turn lane put in. So they felt like, several of them have reached out to TDOT. They felt like it would carry a little more weight if it came from commission. So they asked us to put some kind of resolution forward, and that's what Jay worked on for us.
I basically what I put together is I'm requesting a partnership with them to do an overall traffic safety plan. Some segments TDOT's gonna have to do, some things we may be able to do, but I'll let them identify those issues, and we'll work with Mr. Long to get those done that we can do at the local level, because we got a mix there. We've got a US highway, a state route 71, then we got county roads that are feeding into it, so it's gonna take us all. So that's what I've asked for mainly here is the partnership, the baseline traffic survey that you wanted to see exactly what we've got now, what we'll have after the development, the turn lanes, the acceleration, deceleration lanes, the signage, the traffic lighting, the school bus safety zone, and the partnership. That's where we're at.
Yeah, and I'd like to just make the motion to approve this and forward
Terry,
it to
did you have
TDOT.
any amendments to that? Anything you want to add? Okay.
Got a motion by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner McCamey. Any discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Oh, and by the way, let's try to outdo Budget Committee and speak loud, because I was listening to budget and I couldn't hear people, so it's kind of a challenge. Next is the Oak Ridge Reservation Preparedness Initiative update.
Thank you, Chairman. So last month, we talked about the initiative that Ms. Fogelman and Commissioner Allen wanted to kind of try and push the residents of District 6 to be more aware of what's going on in Oak Ridge. We had a meeting with DOE, TEMA, and kind of discussed some things that were brought forward. One of the big things was the 26-page pamphlet that they currently have that is online for people to go. With that, they kind of told us that that would be kind of a daunting task to print several 100,000 of those, because it's just not City of Oak Ridge. It's, you know, the Hardin Valley community, which is absolutely booming, Loudoun and Roane counties. So it was a lot. Kind of talked about maybe a trifold pamphlet or a single-page document that they could kind of distribute out to the local EMAs and local residents to try and fix that. But with that, they kind of said they would have to take it to their public affairs, and then it'd have to go on down the list, and it's untelling how long that would take. So what has happened, the City of Oak Ridge, Chief Durham can kind of speak on this if he needs to, but they have created their own trifold pamphlet to send out to their residents, and it actually went out this month in their electric bills. So they actually have that document in their houses at this time. So, and it covers more than just DOE. I mean, they threw it all in there, along with a scannable QR code for their Everbridge system, for their iPaws. And I did confirm with the City of Oak Ridge, it is iPaws certified. So even though if you don't have that, they can still push that out to you and you will get the notification. Another thing is with the LEPC, we were supposed to meet 2 months ago. It got canceled. We're supposed to meet again this month. It got canceled as well. But I am going to take it to the LEPC to try and push more of a community engagement, especially with District 6 and the Oak Ridge community, trying to make them more aware and prepared. I've talked to a couple people about potentially doing a community preparedness fair where citizens can come down there as members from Red Cross and TEMA. We would bring DOE in so people, if they had a genuine question, they could walk up and actually talk to the DOE folks and get their input on it. Another thing on the county side of it with our iPaws system, they're still working on our app, but Commissioner Mays said that it will be iPaws certified once it's done. So we would be able to send out those notifications as well without the app, period. Other than that, Chief, you have anything?
No, you cut.
So I'm going to continue to work on this and making sure that, talk to Commissioner Allen before, try and push this a little harder, make them more aware, and hopefully everybody will know what to do in the event of emergency.
Anybody got anything, Mr. Kidwell?
Yeah,
I wanna-
got,
Go ahead.
what does IPAWS stand for? IPAWS?
So can't remember that exact, everybody just calls it IPAW. So there's so many acronyms in
That's right,
EMA
yeah.
world, it's ridiculous, and especially with the federal government. But that's just like where, you know, Commissioner Anderson asked last month if that was where the test page come from.
Yeah.
That's how it is. It just comes directly into your phone. You can't turn it off. It's just kind of like the child abduction alerts. It
Yeah.
automatically comes through.
Yeah, I'm interested in having some sort of community education,
Mhm.
you know, forum, whether it's like a fair, like a
Yeah.
preparedness fair, so that people in the community can really, you know, have some hands-on as to what being prepared is.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to, you know, push it hard, you know, very, very hard, but if that comes up, you know, can you really kind of open that up with them, to maybe that could happen, to have some sort of community education portion of this preparedness?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you know, we work very closely with the city of Oak Ridge with projects, especially when it pertains to our DOE drills and stuff like that. So I think this is something that we could work and partner with the city of Oak Ridge and push a community preparedness fair there in Oak Ridge. So,
One more thing, I was looking at the trifold.
Mhm.
It's very, very good. I have a question on one of the trifolds. It's this one.
so the first page there.
Yeah, the first page of the third one.
Mm-hmm.
And it says the plastic sheeting and duct tape. Okay, if there a way you could explain to people what that's for. I mean, you have it as an item down there, but the regular person doesn't know what to do with
Yeah.
plastic sheeting and duct tape.
Yeah.
So if that could be kind of maybe expanded out a little bit,
Okay.
you know, just to kind of help people out somewhat, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Absolutely.
Anything else for Ms. Kidwell? I don't know if you'll be around for the wildfire
Yeah, I will.
discussion, if you will, because I want to talk about, you know, what you, the mayor, sheriff's department, all the, you know, community work, you know, getting information out. I think you did a great job. And I heard a lot of comments, and they were all positive about all the news that you got out and the updates from everybody, really.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the animal shelter, requested by Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really, this kind of ties into discussions on item 10 as well. We can wait to then, or we can talk about it now, but basically, Mr. Chairman, this is a request I'm bringing as a commissioner from the strategic meeting we attended. One of the things we learned is the need for processes, organizational processes in the county. We have some departments that don't really have some of those processes in place, and I think the animal shelter is one of those. Of course, the mayor does a tremendous job of the limited resources she has, but we're getting ready to take on an endeavor of $5.9 million for a new one, and I think after attending that consulting strategic planning committee, it was apparent to me that we need to have a board develop for the animal shelter of Anderson County going forward, so we could just have direction. As many of you probably know on this board, the Animal Care Advisory Committee is just advisory committee to the mayor in the animal shelter. We don't take any action other than making recommendations, and that's the way it was developed initially, when there was a lot of concerns on different things. We've done that now over a year, and I feel like, and I think more importantly, the members of that committee feel like there's a need to take it to the next step, and that's to get a board developed. So I think I'll make a motion that a board be developed for the Anderson County Animal Shelter, and that's my motion.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Second by Commissioner Barron. Any discussion? Commissioner Allen?
Go ahead.
Okay. So the board structure would be, can you give do you have a concept?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Now, I think there's several around surrounding counties that we could modify, imagine, and the mayor needs to be a part of this regardless. I mean, she has to be. So I think what we would do is have the mayor's input, maybe send it to, back to this committee if we want. I'd like to see us follow some of the counties in the state that are being successful. I meant to have some copies with me, and I haven't been able to obtain those yet, but I think that's what we do. So to answer your question, do I have a process in place? No, and I'm certain Jay would be involved in helping lay that out, but that would be all part of it, forming this new board for that animal shelter.
I'm not opposed to the idea, but I'd just like, we did a few years ago with asking for a business plan that we never received. I'd like to see a little more before the board is approved on what it would look like. So I guess at the moment, I would not be in favor of just blanket saying yes to a board. I'd like to see some documentation that makes me see the purpose and the usefulness of it. That's all I have.
Yeah,
Commissioner Allen?
yeah, I do have a question too, Commissioner Windell. So will the board still be under the mayor, or will it get moved to be under the commission? So my question is about the structure also.
Good questions. Just like any board that's ever been formed here in the county, has to start somewhere.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think there may be a misconception that I'm making a motion to form a board and then magically a document will be produced and we're going to approve it just because of this motion. That's not the intent of the motion. I can certainly make that motion more legible and say, form a board for the Anderson County Animal Shelter for the operations, maintenance, and funding of said shelter, and bring it back to this body for approval. So if that's acceptable to the group here, I'll make an amendment to my motion. Whoever seconded it, if you allow that, that will be my new motion.
Commissioner Barron does. Commissioner McCamey?
Yeah.
So you would amend it to bring it back, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
the way it would happen, Commissioner Allen, is we'd bring back suggestions, mayor, law director. You know, I'm looking to get some boards from around the county and bring in so we can kind of see what works, what doesn't work. And I imagine this body, we would all kind of ferret that out and say, yeah, we like this, we don't like that, and then come up and improve one at some point.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Tracy, is this a recommendation to the full commission, or is this just a recommendation that you would like for this committee to approve involving the law director and the animal welfare task force?
Animal Welfare Task Force, as far as I'm concerned, and there's many of them here, it's separate from this. Now, is it fair to say some of them could be considered for the board? I imagine. I'm not advocating that tonight. I'm trying to keep all that separate, because our committee, advisory committee, will continue to meet and will continue to make recommendations until we have a board formed. And then I wouldn't see a need for that body to be in existence once we have a board formed. But to answer your question, Commissioner McCamey, I'd like to see it go to the commission. I'd like for it to come out of the operations committee. We got to develop it. I mean, we don't have anything in front of us tonight, but that would be part of what we do here. So the next meeting at operations, I would imagine we'd have a kind of a rough draft and several copies to look at, and all of us can kind of take it in and see what we think, and try to have Jay's help and the mayor's help to develop this Anderson County Animal Shelter Board.
Well, without anything in writing, I'm afraid the county commission is going to be lost. And that if it stays in this committee and comes back to this committee, and it's something that we can approve and then forward to the full commission for discussion, I think would be the way to handle it. But I don't think we ought to send it straight to the county commission now, because
I apologize.
too many people would be confused about it, just like Commissioner Yeager and myself.
No. I apologize. I misunderstood your question. I want it to go to the full commission at some point. Do I want it to go next meeting? No.
Okay. So we'd come back to this committee next month?
Not
and-
until we're ready and we have a, you know, it needs to be a board that is agreeable to all of us and we all have input. You know, this isn't a board that's wanting to be developed so we or someone can take the power away from the mayor. That's not the purpose of this. The
Right.
purpose is we need a board, just like we need when Commissioner Palmer gets later into her section here, we need to have structure. We need to know what happens if something happens, who's in charge. We need to know the procedures, we need to know funding, all the things we've been talking about the last year. We need to have those mechanisms in place so we can operate. So no, it will not go to the commission until next meeting until we have everything we have in our hands. But I would see us doing that along with the mayor and the law director.
Yeah.
Commissioner, would you be opposed to not-for-profit? Or do you want it kept under the county umbrella?
I can't really say because I don't know, Jay. I don't know how they operate the others in the state. I hear different
There
counties.
seems to be a couple models, and I'm not really
Yes, sir.
educated on it, but some counties proceed under the urban-type public facility statute. Then I've heard of some that proceed with a not-for-profit running the shelter.
Mhm.
It's somewhat detached from county government. There's advantages to both. But I'll start trying to get educated on this issue.
Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you. Would this specifically just be a board over the shelter itself, or would that be would they be in charge of the hiring and firing of the animal control officer or something?
I think how that board's developed would answer all those questions. I don't know right now. You know, the mayor's got to play a part in it, as she does now. She in all essence is the director, board of directors for the current shelter we have. And everybody reports through her, which is fine. And if that's the way the board is set up and that's the way they want to have it, then that's the way it could be. But we'll have a clear understanding who's responsible for what and what the processes are. I mean, again, for those in the audience and those at home, the meetings we sat in, it's very evident to me, we have several departments that we don't have structure to. And it's problematic at best when we don't have an employee of record. So we know, to your point, Commissioner Anderson, who is responsible for that individual should something go bad, whether it's library boards or what have you. We got a lot of things we got to tighten up and fix. And this, we didn't have a board for the shelter. You know, I don't remember, and I know there's some documents here, and I didn't have a chance to look at everything, but I don't remember how the animal shelter was formed. We did a resolution.
Yes, sir.
In that resolution, did they talk about a board, or I don't recall.
No, sir, I don't think so.
That one was more done just to be able to build a shelter, wasn't it? It wasn't really,
The advisory committee?
no. Was there what resolution was developed to start the animal shelter we have? Not the advisory committee.
I don't think we did a resolution.
So the animal control was a resolution that was put in place many years ago. I can't recall what that year
06.
was. But Anderson County did not have animal control, and there was an agreement that the animal control department would operate under the mayor's office, which it does in many counties. In some, it operates under the sheriff's department. Some, it's under the mayor. The animal shelter, Anderson County long-term contracted with the city of Oak Ridge. And that's where the animals went if they were captured, animals at large, lost animals. And what happened, the shelter came into being because Oak Ridge decided to no longer accept animals from Anderson County or the city of Clinton. That was also the location for city of Clinton and Rocky Top. And so the facility we're in now is called a shelter, but it's really still a holding facility. In fact, we're going to have an open house from 10 to 12 on Saturday because there's a lot of new commissioners who have not ever seen this very small temporary facility. And so it did not come into being as a resolution. It just is a requirement that we have to take the animals somewhere. On an emergency basis, through a partnership with Roane County, we were able to temporarily take them down there for a while. That was a stress on people who lived in this community that were looking for their animals and had to drive down. It took a lot of time from our staff. And then it puts a lot of pressure on Roane County's animal population. And so they were in a great hurry to get, to get our animals out of there. I'm certainly not opposed to a board, but I will note that the mayor would appoint those members. That is authority that is granted to me in the management of a department. I'm all about collaboration, but that would be the structure. If we're going to talk about a nonprofit running the Anderson County Animal Shelter, I would not be for building a animal shelter where Anderson County taxpayers are paying for that and paying for that debt to let an unaccountable outside organization run that, and then pit your animal control department against the shelter staff. So if we want to go down that path, I'm all for that, but I do believe the mayor would need to appoint those members to that board.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say this. I don't have a problem with the mayor appointing the people to the board, but we also need a mechanism in the board process to make sure that if things don't run smoothly, that there's a process for the board to run effectively. I'm not saying it won't run effectively, but we can develop the board any way we want. We're the commission. We're the legislative body. If we say we'd like it to be this way, we can do that. At no point did I say, when I made this motion, let's do this to cut the mayor out. What I said was, we need structure. And I think we'd be remiss if we're all sitting around this table and be completely honest with each other that the advisory committee has had any impact whatsoever, other than we don't have people coming to the podium complaining like they were over a year ago. There's been some successes because we had to hire a new director, but we don't hear from the new director. We don't know what's going on in the holding facility. So that is the need for the board, and this body will make that decision. If this body says the mayor will appoint all 12 or 8 or 6 members, whatever it is, then I'll support that. But it'll be up to this body to decide as the legislative body on how that board will be developed, as far as I'm concerned, because we don't have one right now. So I just wanted to say that, Mr. Chairman, and I'm prepared to vote whenever we get to it.
Mr. Chairman, Damon McKenna, our director, is going to be at December's meeting and talk about what he's seen out in the community. And it is not my intent to offend anyone when I, say what I'm saying. But back when, I'm going to go back to Brian Porter and what has happened to our shelter. The reputation of our shelter was very much damaged for the long term. And if you're selling sandwiches and you food poison people and then you try to continue to sell sandwiches, see how long you can stay in business. Officer Porter did a fantastic job, and nobody is perfect because we're dealing with animals, we're dealing with irresponsible owners in the community. But Brian Porter did not do what he was accused of doing, and we have yet to recover. We have employees that still live under a shadow of fear. I have an existing member of the current advisory board who has told me flat out that there are members on the committee that it doesn't matter what I do as mayor or what Damon does, that the incentive or the agenda is for us to fail. So our employees know that. And years ago, when I took the harassment class with Director Whitaker, these are some of the items that were presented as harassment: spreading malicious rumors, gossip, and lies; intentional isolation, ignoring and excluding coworkers. And I will note, I have asked for the minutes of the subcommittee meetings of the Animal Advisory Committee. They have not been noticing their meetings, and they have not been producing those minutes.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Making
order.
false
I'd like to respond to that.
accusations.
I'd like to respond to that. Mr. Chairman,
I have the
Look,
floor.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
our meetings are publicly noticed. Our minutes are given to the mayor every single month. We can turn this discussion into what happened in the past. The whole point of this motion is to eliminate every single thing the mayor is talking about, which means structure, having a board that would handle these types of issues. I didn't come in here prepared tonight to air dirty laundry. I didn't come in here prepared tonight to read minutes and he said, she said, and all those fun things. What I can say is I've spent over a year now trying to work with the mayor and present the minutes and the motions. I know she's busy. She can't make it. Damon can't make it. Dr. Garrett can't make it. All these people don't make it. And what the folks at home don't understand is we continue to meet and we continue to give the information. That's the need for a board to give structure, take away the personalities, take away all these thoughts and concerns. Look, we're here in life, you know. The focus of the shelter should be to protect the animals. I think everyone understands there's times when animals have to be put down, unfortunately. We get that. But what we need is a board to be over this body. Look, if the mayor wants to appoint it and this body says, sure, appoint them all. Pick 10 of your finest folks you recommend, put them on that board. Guess what's going to happen? Once that's done, we'll have the authority to say it's not working. We'll have a process. We don't have that right now. We don't have anything. And when the advisory committee was formed, it was formed so we wouldn't have any say-so. It was formed, you know, and for the mayor to claim that our goal is for the animal shelter to fail, that's almost hard to hear. I mean, how can you say that? I've been spending my own time for the last year on it. I mean, that's a slap in my face. I mean, I've called the mayor, I've texted her. I asked her at the last meeting, she said she'd be there, couldn't make it, and a week later she had a family reunion. I get it. Did I get upset? No. I mean, don't tell me that we're not doing our job. We've been doing our job. You know, so look, y'all, we can all keep talking.
Let's stay on task.
Let's vote on the motion and let's move on to other business.
Mayor, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I did not accuse anyone on the committee of withholding minutes. I said there are subcommittees that are meeting. Those are not, Commissioner Wandell is not on those subcommittees. And they are meeting. I don't even know if they're informing Mr. Wandell that they're meeting. I'm going to continue reading from our HR presentation. Sabotaging or impeding a person's work, cruel comments, belittling and insults, unjust, harsh, and constant criticism. Those are some of the items, and I want to be clear, I did not say every member of that committee. I said there are a couple of members of that committee who there is nothing we can do that will satisfy them. There are many good individuals on that committee who have worked hard And we do try to respond to the committee. The committee changed, I understand, they changed their dates for Fire Commission. One of the meetings where I could not be there was because I was a sponsor of an event that I had sponsored months earlier. I do not want, and I have shared this with Commissioner Wandell, I don't want my team to go to that meeting alone without someone to defend them from certain individual members. And if we're going to work forward in a government, I think we have to have individuals that are willing to work together in a safe environment to truly address things that need to be improved or ideas for how to better the system. So hopefully that provides some clarification.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion.
Can we repeat that, please?
Annette?
The motion was to develop a board for the Anderson County Animal Shelter with Jay's and the mayor's help. And it was amended for the operations, maintenance, and funds for the shelter.
For it to come back to the Operations Committee for discussion before it's forwarded on to full commission,
Okay.
for it to be worked out here.
Seconded that?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, any other discussion on the motion itself? I know there's, anytime you talk about animals, it gets to be a hot topic. I think the mayor's done a lot of things since I've been around to try to promote an animal shelter. Personally and financially, but everybody in this room loves animals. I don't think there's anyone here that don't. And so it's a touchy subject. But anyway, we've got a motion at hand, and that's what we need to vote on.
I have one more question.
Oh, okay.
So this is just a proposal that's going to be brought to operations next month of a board of directors and their function.
And I could really see, like Commissioner Wandell was talking about, when it comes up to what you're talking about, when we do this reorganization chart, because sometimes what you need to be is you need to be held accountable for your actions and your votes, and and if you're not elected, an elected official, it's hard to be held accountable. So that's why I see a lot of these things done by people that's elected, because you are accountable. If you don't make good, wise decisions, guess what? Somebody else will be sitting in your chair. But anyway, that's
Okay.
I think that'll go into that.
I don't think a board of directors is the proper terminology. That would indicate, I think it's just a board. I don't think,
Yeah, board.
okay, all right.
So basically, it'll be discussion going into next month.
Sure.
And it gives us some time to think about that, so. Anything else? Commissioner?
I think, to the mayor's point, state law may very well play into who appoints the board, and that's what I'm hoping that Jay can find out, but, there's several aspects of state law. I know on the, solid waste board, it's the mayor who does the appointing. We don't have any authority whatsoever to appoint, and there's certain things that the state requires, and I'm sure Jay will pick that out and bring it back to us, so.
Commissioner Wandell?
Commissioner, did you get your question answered?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm good.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes. Okay. Law Director's Report, USDA Legal Services Agreement for the Animal Shelter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you've got a handout there. The mayor's moving forward with our funding for the animal shelter, and I've agreed to do the legal services for that, closing and anything else she needs to do for an attorney, so we don't have to hire outside help. I need approval for that. You've got a copy of it in your packet.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner McCamey. Discussion on the motion. Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay,
Yes, sir.
this USDA Legal Services Agreement for the animal shelter, is it just for you to provide the legal services for that, or are you actually completing that document?
Which I'll do all the closing documents, sir. It's like we did for Briceville and volunteer fire departments in the past, so we don't have to go outside and hire an outside attorney to do this.
I guess what I'm needing to know is, if we proceed and the funds are let to the county, who's responsible for those funds?
The county is.
Where will those funds reside?
They'll be put in a bank account immediately.
Which, I mean, I'm not challenging, I'm just asking questions, and I thought,
I don't handle the funds.
no, I'm not saying you do, I'm just asking questions. I didn't want you to feel
Sure.
like I'm challenging you.
No,
Sometimes when I talk, I come across that
No,
way.
no, no.
What I'm trying to understand is where would the 5.9 million go? Would it go into the animal shelter code? Would it go into undesignated fund balance?
No, we go into a revenue code, under the chart of accounts. Then there'll be a cost center, put out beside of it, said animal shelter, and you would draw it down by appropriations out of that revenue code. Be similar to any other grant that we handle.
And when you say you mean the
County
legislative
commission.
body would, so none of those funds would be expended until the commission
Right, it's
deems
appropriation.
it?
Yes, sir. Be just like every other month when we do pull down grant funds or Build Back America, any of those grant funds.
Well, I thought I read in there that there was supposed to be, I think Commissioner Yeager alluded to it in some of his discussions. Isn't there supposed to be a business plan, a maintenance plan associated with this? I thought it was in there.
No, sir. I'm not aware of that. Are you, Mayor? I hadn't seen a requirement for a business plan.
So I thought, I'll have to look up, I thought I sent you everything that was in the application, so,
Maybe that's,
maybe, so we do have to fill out like anticipated revenues, you know, like anticipated number of adoptions or reclaim fees, anticipated salaries. So I thought that was in the whole packet I sent you, but if it's not, I will reach back out to Kirk Morris and ask. USDA so far, the only thing we have been approved, the final approval is they set the funds aside. We still have, there's still a couple documents that Jay has to do, and then we have to have the construction documents and get that 100% solid estimate. Then commission would have to approve a construction loan. And that construction loan is a bridge, so that would go through finance committee and full commission. Then when that happens, then the county would go to bid. The construction documents would be there. You would go to bid, and USDA, once the bid is awarded and it goes to construction, USDA has to sign off on every single invoice, because there's also the Buy America in there. All of those requirements of USDA have to be met before. What you would run into is if you got to the closing, so that loan is a bridge loan, it's a construction loan. Then when the project is complete, that's when Jay closes the loan. If there are any invoices that do not meet USDA requirements, then we would not be eligible to get that funding from USDA. So what happens at closing when Jay does that is USDA comes with their money, they pay off the construction loan, and then they set up the payment terms, which if Anderson County contributed some or some is raised during that construction process, that amount could be lowered. And we chose the USDA because it's 40 years, you know, understanding that there's always been this hesitation about the county building a shelter. So that was kind of the avenue we chose to lower the debt payment on an annual basis.
It's a
So
good
this-
synopsis. You too, Mayor?
Yep.
Very good. Commissioners, on page 2 of the guide, it says Section A, Legal Services. That's what I would be doing here. That's basically all the legal work that's needs to be done. We've already done the title opinion on it, and we'll start this other process. It's an ongoing process throughout until, like the mayor says, we close out the construction loan to get the money from USDA, finalize all that. It'll take several months or several years, more than likely.
So, it's okay, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The 5.9 has been requested. It's been authorized.
Yes, you all approved that, and USDA has set it aside for this project.
And then what we provided USDA through your office, I guess, was a map, or excuse me, a drawing of a proposed animal shelter.
Yes, we did a full schematic, and
That's what you provided to me
yes.
last week. I
Yes.
believe, and I shared it with the shelter folks or advisory committee. That shelter that was developed, was there any consultation with other shelters, or did we just go to a engineering firm and say, hey, draw me up a shelter?
no, we actually went and toured, even with architects, several shelters. We went to Putnam County, to Blount County, to Hamilton County, walked through. Our architect also visited several veterinary clinics as well, and we were looking at that from a disease management standpoint, such as even the floors being proposed epoxy that go completely up on the side of the wall, kind of like a surgery room.
Right.
So there's no cracks or corners where bacteria or anything gets in there. So no, we did do that, and in fact, the plans that were put together were also based on firsthand eyewitness look at the efficiencies of each operation. So for instance, Hamilton County, when we toured their facility, they actually have a City of Chattanooga shelter and a Hamilton County shelter. Their Hamilton County shelter had 43 employees. And part of that was what we saw, and this is, you know, I don't want to sound critical of Hamilton County, but the building was so spread out and the operations all in different areas that you had to have additional employees just to, instead of compacting and making efficient from the hallways to the laundry to all of those things. So we did try to design that with all of those considerations. And then we interviewed every shelter we visited was very open and kind. They shared with us all of some of the questions we did ask were, if you had it to do over again, what would you have done differently? What didn't work out like you wanted it to? And they were very open about telling us this was a problem for us. If you do one, do it this way and don't do what we did here. And so they would share best practices and pitfalls.
So Putnam County, Hamilton County, what was the other one you said?
Blount County. Blount County has they're actually building on right now. They have a lot of community partnership. There's a large 501c there that contributes every year. We did go meet with Mayor Mitchell and Randy Vidner, their finance director, about that. And what they do is they make a contribution, they make an agreement on the front end with the mayor and their county commission, what those funds will go for. So they want it spelled out so that there's understanding from the nonprofit that your dollars are going to fund. For instance, one of the things that they've funded over the years were the behavior assessments. And that 501c has a big annual fundraiser, and then they enter into an agreement with Blount County that these are the things we're funding, and we have the expectation that you're going to use our dollars for that. And then the government funds the rest of the operation.
Thank you. So this, Mr. Chairman, this is just to vote on Jay doing the legal aspect of it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
It probably isn't time for this, but I have a couple of the shelters you toured.
Uh-huh.
When was the most recent one built?
I don't know which one was the most recent. I do know Sevier County, I don't know if they have built theirs. I talked to Mayor Waters about this. This has been a couple of years ago. They were looking at a $5 million shelter back then. And so I would assume, I haven't checked with him recently,
Okay.
that it's either in construction or it's been constructed.
And how many, it's probably in the drawing somewhere, how many square feet is ours going to be, not ours is
My
now?
memory is 10,000 square feet.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Allen.
You could refresh my memory. How many kennels are there or holding bays are there?
I cannot recall, Commissioner Allen. We started, the design is based on providing adequate number of the dog kennels, but then also designing a space that if Anderson County grows in the future, it's really kind of a hub and spoke concept where you could easily add on at low cost extra runs. And then the majority of the focus and the long-term planning was on that interior of the building, which has dog quarantine area with separate air units, and so you don't want the same air going in your healthy population. Cat quarantine area. The design is based on the whole front of the building is public space, so training room, adoption rooms, counselor rooms, viewing rooms for adoptable cats, viewing area for adoptable dogs, and then surgery, and then there's a small animal, so that you're not putting the little tinies out there in the big runs. Small animal location, and then we have an other for those times when we have things like potbelly pigs, and we do get those. So, but I cannot remember. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up.
But it is kind of designed to have growth. You kind of look at that as
Absolutely,
kind of-
yes, but not growing all at once.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
having the interior to be able to handle the future. And then if extra runs, if Anderson County grows to 100,000, you can easily you've already got the infrastructure there to easily put more runs.
Thank you.
Mayor, is it okay if I share those plans with?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Nicole, make a note. We'll send those out in the morning so everybody can take a look at the plans. It's very detailed. I think you'll enjoy it. Feel free to ask myself or the mayor questions about the drawing and anything else that you think we may need there. Any other questions on the legal services agreement?
Okay. We have a motion.
Do we have one?
I didn't.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Yeager. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you very much. The next item I have is the MOU with Appalachian Mountain Rescue Team. This group of young men and women do our critical rescues up on the mountain, Windrock Mountain. They also do rescues all through this region. They're just asking to park a trailer at our Station 6 location. Nathan is okay with that. They're not going to affect the ingress egress for our station, and it'll be somewhere where they can keep their expensive rescue equipment in a nice governmental facility and not have to worry about it getting stolen. But that's all this is about, is just a parking agreement, in the form of an MOU with Appalachian Mountain Rescue's team for them to park their trailer. And I think the specifications are it's a 5x10 single axle rescue trailer. And it'll be at the 150 Arcadia Lane facility in Oak Ridge, Station 6.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Rivera. Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Wambath?
Jay, if anything should happen to this unit, would we be liable, or?
No,
Okay,
it's
thank you.
on them. Totally on them.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
The last thing I have for you is the interlocal agreement for public library services, and I'll turn that over to Commissioner McCamey. Basically, what we've done is memorialize the legacy history of the libraries. We pointed out the state code that entitles the library board to supervise these libraries. A little history there. Clinton actually has had a public library since 1898. They have the records to justify that. That's very credible. Bryceville, as you know, at one time was probably the most popular and biggest city in Anderson County. They've had a library of some sort until it was actually formed in the, I believe it was the 30s and 40s. But then we've got Norris that was formed by the U.S. government in the 40s when they came in and built the town. So we've got a long history of that. Now, there's a reference here in 08 where the county brought the library employees in as county employees. That was a big change. I spoke with a couple county commissioners about that. I remember looking at this back in 07, and the Clinton librarian, head librarian, was making like $12 an hour. The ladies that worked for her were making $6 and $7 an hour over there. We brought them into the county, gave them benefits, and immediately brought them under the compensation plan, and several of them got raises that doubled their salary at that point. But that's been the history that we've got. The state code structure is in here. I'll put that in here. And the one thing, it's Title 10-3-101. It's a whole chapter in Tennessee Code on how to run the library board. The composition of the board is actually embodied in state statute. That's not up for us to decide there. Denise has done a whole lot of research on this, but if you need those code sections, I'll be glad to provide them to you. The one thing, when I was talking to Robbie about this, we do our portion, the 524, and I believe it's now capped as of the budget process last year. I was talking to Robbie about this, and these donations from the cities are several years old. So you may want to up those. But now remember that the city of Clinton, the city of Norris, and the city of Rocky Top donate their buildings to us. And they do all the maintenance of those buildings and provide the maintenance and the facility and the parking and all that. We don't have to mess with that, but we do provide a library and staff. But anyway, Commissioner McCamey may want to talk to you more about this. And but anyway, it's an interlocal agreement. It would require passage from this body, require passage from Norris, passage from Clinton, and passage from Rocky Top. So it'd take 4 governmental entities to sign off on this. And this is just a skeleton, a template. You may want to alter it. I'm just basically memorializing what we've got in existence right now. Thank you so much.
Have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner McCamey, seconded by Commissioner Anderson. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
I have a question. Wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm to your side and you couldn't see me there. I would like to know, Mayor, I believe you had asked or was going to ask the cities if there was an agreement. Did we identify?
We don't have one, Commissioner Palmer,
Oh,
that I
okay.
can find in my office. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but
Would the cities have it?
don't-
Have a copy?
Gary, did you have any luck at all finding anything?
Not yet.
I think it's just an informal agreement that, hey, they would provide the buildings if we provide the employees, and that's the way it's worked out all along, and this takes care of that concern. At least
Okay.
we've got some document now that pulls us all together in a partnership. And hopefully, we can add to this, but hopefully we'll understand now how it works a little bit better.
Okay, well, I just wondered if we should wait and see if the cities come up with something and go from that?
We can't find anything.
Okay, and then, and we don't know if the cities, Mayor, the cities, you haven't had anything?
No.
And these dollar amounts here in section 2, 3, and 4 from the city of Clinton and the city of Norris and the city of Rocky Top, it says an annual monetary contribution not to fall below these amounts. Is that what we're giving now? Is that what
That's what they're giving us
what they're giving
now.
us now?
And
Okay.
I did add a CPI adjustment there. I don't know if you noticed that. And we may need to renegotiate these amounts.
And I'm wondering, should that be more of a contractual, like a contract or
That's
something?
what this is. It's an interlocal agreement. It's an interlocal contract.
Embodied in the resolution, so it could be changed.
It's
at any
not
time.
a resolution.
Oh,
It-
I'm
It's
sorry.
an interlocal agreement.
I'm
It's-
sorry,
it's
you're
a
right,
contract.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to track with you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good questions.
All
But
right, so
where did
this
I
is
put
what
this?
we're doing right now, and we're just putting it on paper.
Right, and honestly, I feel like we need to negotiate a little bit with the cities. Listening to Robbie, this is a good start, but they're not really carrying the burden. Like, I know it costs a lot to operate some of these libraries, and the buildings are very nice. Don't get me wrong, but if it's true that they haven't upped their ante here in several years, then maybe we should go back to them and say, hey, we're only getting $17,665 from the city of Norris. And Clinton's 80,000, or sorry, the city of Rocky Top, 17,665. The city of Norris is 32,246. City of Clinton's 80,000, but we do have a beautiful building over here at Clinton. I would like to see these come up a little bit, and Section 5's got the CPI adjustment that'll annually be readjusted due to the cost consumer price index. But try to take in some, but that's something personally I'd like to see this take a turn, that we need to renegotiate some of these terms. And but my job right now is just to get a working document in front of you, see if you're okay with the framework, and then we'll take it out and try to negotiate with these cities and see if we can get a little bit more money that
All
we
right.
kick into the pot.
All right, and
Because
I,
it is a community service for all of us.
okay. And Commissioner McCamey, you're the one who requested this?
Yes.
Do you have any,
Well, the mayor had brought up the fact that we didn't have any kind of agreement in writing.
Right.
So I asked Jay, I said, can you draw something up? I don't want it to affect this year. This year, the budget's set.
right,
But now, like he said, this can be renegotiated for our next budget year. But, the amount of money that we're putting into it and the amount of money that the cities are putting into it, we have to remember there's tax money. We're taxing the people in Lake City with the property tax money that goes into the library. The people in Norris pay county taxes, that goes into the library. Same way with Clinton. So there is a tax levy that's attached to this that we're presently using money. So it's not just our money, it's not just for it's the county. And even though they're city residents, they pay county taxes.
right.
And so that money's being funneled into this operation. So like I said, we can renegotiate the amounts, and then once we get an amount that's agreeable with everybody, like you said, the CPI is part of that, and then it will automatically every year increase according to the CPI.
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on a second, Commissioner
Thank you,
Anderson's
thank
first.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I understand it looks like maybe some of the cities don't contribute as much. That's one of the reasons why I'm hesitant, or would be hesitant to, that's why I think we need to keep the librarians as county employees and not turn libraries over to the cities, I think it would be hard for Rocky Top to maintain a library on their own, or Norris even.
Absolutely.
And what they contribute with the building and then the maintenance of the building,
Utilities too.
the utilities, if the heating and air goes out,
Mhm.
there's,
They all pick those up.
they're on the hook for that. So there's some unpredictable, unexpected expenses that they maintain, and each city actually has a maintenance of effort agreement with the state. So
Right.
they've signed an agreement with the state library to
We have
fund-
two.
And we have too, but they are agreeing with the state to fund the level that they're currently funding. So I think it's fine to memorialize this. It's been working fine for the county and the city since the late 1940s. I think it's been set up this way. So I think it's fine to memorialize, but maybe not. I'm afraid we'll break down or sabotage this effort if we start going to the cities and saying, hey, you need to double this right
Look
away.
at it at any time. You can look at it next budget year, or whenever the budget committee or finance committee decides they want to look at it, they can look at it. At least we've got it down on paper, what the responsibilities and obligations are, and we can move forward. And we've got a CPI adjustment in there, and that any time you think that that's not enough, then we can go to the cities and say, hey, we need to renegotiate these numbers.
Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to see some harder numbers on section 2, 3, and 4. Is there a way to really talk about that, to get something more definite?
That is their numbers.
That is the exact numbers?
That is the exact
Yeah.
numbers that they donated.
Okay, you were saying something about going back and renegotiating these numbers?
In the future, if you wanted to renegotiate these numbers,
Yeah,
you just open back up this interlocal agreement by amendment and go back. But this is exactly what we've got in place for this budget. Section 2
yeah,
is Clinton, Section 3 is the North, Section 4 is
Gotcha.
Rocky Top, Section 1 is our tax levy that we have on it that has been capped now.
yeah.
But those are the exact numbers, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Do you want,
Go
no, go ahead.
I
Commissioner
was
first.
just, I know this, are we paying for any of the maintenance or repairs?
No.
Is that right? They're all
They-
done
they-
by
they
the cities?
completely-
Municipalities,
maintain.
except for
Okay.
Briceville.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Mayor?
Okay. Just a couple of thoughts I have. I do think it needs to be some type of annual agreement, just so that it's never implied that that this commission is, locking future commissions into an appropriation,
Good point.
because those are the annual decisions of county commission. Same thing with the state legislature. And I really would like to see, if, I'm not opposed to this. I mean, I think it's, something that has worked, but I will know, and I brought this up at last meeting, there have been issues over the years, with the employees being county employees, and their need, we've talked a lot about some process on this earlier with the shelter. I don't know how we tackle it. I mean, this is kind of, I haven't thought this out. I mean, just looking at this right now. But for instance, my understanding is we don't maintain their personnel files, but yet we're carrying, all of the liability. We are, as I know Commissioner Varon asked, Jay one time, what about, how much time have you spent on these legal issues dealing with this stuff? We're carrying more than $524,000 in cost by accepting the full employment. And so perhaps there needs to be something cleared up. If they are going to be county employees, how are they managed? Are they gonna, if we're doing an interlocal agreement with the cities and we're carrying all of the responsibility for the employee, maybe Anderson County needs the majority of control on those employees, and they are truly Anderson County employees that answer to Anderson County, not the library board. The library board would set policies and deal with things like books and operations and hours, but I just think there needs to be some cleaning up. And if we're going to continue the commitment, that there needs to be some, you know, I know when I first came in and the library board chairman at that time used to provide daily traffic counts, you know, how many unique visitors there were, just kind of some understanding. If commission is going to fund this, then how do you measure, again, back to some of the other discussion earlier tonight, then how do we measure what's a success in operating the library? And then we do pay other things, so we do pay the utilities, is my understanding. I know we pay the insurance, and we're paying the contents, and there's some stuff there that really needs to be memorialized or documented. It's not just an appropriation. Those are other costs that we are paying for the cities, for their building. So I do think that there's some more work to be done on it. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor. I'd like to get it squared away perfectly. I do believe this is a good start. We don't have a lot of discretion under Tennessee Code Annotated 10.3.101 at C goes on. We do have their personnel files. We do have their medical files, just like any other county employee. They're no different on the med files and the county personnel files. But anyway, anything else you'd like me to work on this, I'll be glad to, but it is a good start. We can move forward with this.
Well, I think that's one of the directives that Vice Chairman Palmer wants to take up. It's one of the issues I think we should come up with, this organizational discussion. Commissioner Anderson?
I think, well, he touched on part of it with HR does keep the personnel files. The library directors are hired and fired by the board, and then they hire their other employees, but they're all considered county employees, and there's been some HR complaints filed and they go to Kim Whitaker.
They're under the personnel policy.
They're under the personnel policy. But the library board's that's not the only board that's set up that way. I think the second conservation board meeting I served on, we fired a park superintendent. So there's plenty of other boards.
There's
other boards that are structured similarly. So it's not unique. But yeah, that's just
not at all.
Say.
Any other commissioner? Ms. Mansfield? Name and address, please.
Myra Mansfield, 103 Hendricks Drive, Oak Ridge. I appreciate Commissioner Palmer trying to take pause on this, and the county attorney and the mayor's concerns as well. I felt like there needs to be a more thorough search throughout the county for previous documents that may be held in Clinton Municipal Building, Rocky Top, Norris Municipal Buildings. Even though we can't find anything here, there may be something there. And I also wondered about what comparably sized counties are doing. So other counties that have 75,000 people approximately, how are they handling their libraries, and how are they governed? Are they under their county HR and things like that? Might be something to just explore. There seems to be a mistake in section 3 because it might be correct, but it says that the city of Norris will continue ... but then in the second sentence it says the city of Clinton will also provide annual, monthly. I think that's supposed to be.
Yeah, we've got that. It's Norris. I've got the correct.
Okay, I thought so.
Thank you, Myra.
All right. My next question was about this saying the library board has authority at all times. And that just seemed like a huge amount of authority to give the library board. And I appreciate what you said, Commissioner Anderson, about the committee can fire and hire, but then they're actually county employees and all of that. It seems like that might need to be smoothed out so that in your interlocal agreement, that would be spelled out more, like you said. My biggest concern was about, I read the TCA 10-3-103, and it was, everywhere in there it says that the library board is supposed to be 7 members. And it says only 5 can be of the same sex. So we have 9 members, and everywhere I read, it always said 7. And it never said at least 7, and it never said 7 or more. It always says 7. So and it also did spell out that you've got to have 1 from the county, 1 from each municipality that's represented. But I was curious to know, if you wouldn't mind explaining, who are the 9 members that we have and where do they come from?
I believe you can have up to 11 members. According to the state library, there's
Subsection B.
we have a commission. I'm the commission representative. We have 2 county at-large board members, and then each of the 3 municipalities appoint 2 members. So there's 2 Norris, 2 Rocky Top, 2 Clinton, 2 county, and then 1 county commissioner. A few years ago, we changed the, there used to be a regional library board that the state dissolved. And so they were regional library board members who also served as they could make a quorum for the county meeting. So when we lost those 2, we had 7 county members, and so that's been 3 or 4 years ago when the state did that, but they changed the number to be able to, we were struggling with making a quorum at that time. We just had 7 members, so. But I believe you can have up to 11.
The regional libraries where we got all the historic information on it, they've done a good job keeping that over the years.
Okay, so what I read was it had to be decided by population of each of those cities. So like Rocky Top being smaller, Norris, Clinton, they would have, that's what it said in TCA 10-3-103. It was talking about the 7-member, and it had to be determined by population of each of those areas. So I just was curious to see how ours had grown bigger, and
That's a good question. I'll look at that for you, Mark.
okay. Just in light of the current tensions and the public distrust of the library board right now, I did say this at the library meeting last week as well. They are trying to come to work on some issues, but I've very hesitant to assume that it's all going to be rolled out properly by the staff. And so that's why I wanted to just come up and encourage, and then you all said it already, but I just wanted to encourage, not to rush into this, because it needs more attention, I feel like.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'll just, I do want to say, just touching on, I appreciate Mayor Frank defending her employees, and I've been on the board since 2019, and librarians they are rule followers to a T, and any policy we've ever put forward, even if they weren't crazy about it, they've always done their job and followed the policy, and I have full confidence that they'll continue to follow the new policies.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have. The utilities point kind of bothered me, because that's thousands of dollars a year. And if we're not collecting, if we're paying for it, but we don't have an agreement that says that they're paying that they pay utilities, I'm kind of.
They pay utilities on the building.
Isn't that opposite of what I heard earlier?
No.
We pay for Bryceville's.
What, Bryceville,
We
of
pay
course,
Bryceville.
but the 3 municipalities, Clinton, Norris, and Rocky Top, from what I understand, they pick up the tab, the maintenance, the building, the parking lot, trash, everything that goes into it. Bryceville's a unique
Yeah,
area.
sure.
It was, you remember the Bryceville Foundation, they deeded it back to the county, and we're in a cooperation agreement with the school system on the Bryceville Library. But my knowledge, we don't pay any utilities. Do you know anything about that?
Pick that up too, Commissioner Yeager.
Yeah.
I will confirm with Robbie. I texted him and he said that, the cities do not pay the utilities. We pay them. So
Okay.
we'll
We'll look
look
at
that
that.
up tomorrow
And I-
and let you all know.
Well, how can I address that for you, sir? You said you want them to pick up the utilities?
Well, that's in your agreement that you've written, I believe. And they're supposed to be paying them now and they're not, so I think,
That, if I've got it in here, they're gonna pay utilities.
yeah. And I know we participated in an AC unit, split an AC unit cost with Clinton. So I think that there's some muddied financial,
Okay, what-
oversight.
The utilities issue, what, I'm trying to
Yeah, that,
get.
I want to make
identify
sure,
issues.
yeah, I'd like to see if they're supposed to be paying them, that we get reimbursed. If, I mean, it just
Well-
doesn't seem right that they should be paying them now and they're not.
In
I don't
the
know how to
future,
address
that's our
that.
plan.
Yeah, I know
is
that.
for them to pick up the utilities. And I'll find out from Robbie exactly what buildings we are paying on and what we're not. But I thought they were picking up everything on those buildings, but anyway, I'll find out the
Okay.
utility issue as soon as I possibly can tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Um, Go ahead, no, go ahead.
This agreement doesn't really do anything for this fiscal year. The budget's set for this fiscal year. This is basically just back and forth negotiations with the cities on next year. And these new things that were added, if it's in there that they pay utilities, but in reality, we're paying them this year, you know, that's already been approved by our budget, by the commission to do that. So this is just in the future, and that's what Jay is saying. He has it in there that they will pay utilities. They will provide all the maintenance on the building. They'll provide for all of the, any kind of upkeep on the building or any modifications to the building that they deem necessary. The cities will take care of that because it is their building. But this has no effect on this year, really, because our budget is set through June 30th.
Right.
So, when will this go to the cities to see if they are in agreement with this contract?
As soon as we get it passed by county commission, I would think.
Okay.
I can go ahead and,
I'm just
speak with
wondering
them
if
now.
we should defer until the change, or to address these. I guess that's what I'm thinking, to address the concerns.
well, I'll be glad to continue to work on it any way
Okay.
you want to see fit. But Robert's point is, it's already set in the budgets
Right.
right now for both of us.
So we're
Both the
not,
cities. It's not changing any
but we're not in a
contribution.
big hurry to pass this, right?
Well, either way, we're not in a big hurry to do it. It's set right now exactly what we're gonna pay, the cities are gonna pay, what we're gonna do, through the tax levy. And we can get it completely ironed out. If that's what you want to do, we can do that, but it's not
Okay.
gonna change one bit. We know what the budgets look
You
like.
answer that, yeah.
Okay, and I just want to clarify one thing. You know for sure that the personnel files are kept in the HR department here
That's
in the
what the
courthouse.
HR director told me, that we have
Because I
their-
was told to the contrary, so I just want to make sure.
She's evidently watching it on TV, and she sent me a text and said, I have their personnel files, and then I followed it up, and she said, I have their med files. We have to keep them separate for HIPAA reasons. They're
Okay,
in two different locations inside the courthouse. And
Okay.
she says she's got both the personnel and the med files in here,
maybe
under her control.
when I was told that have they always been here?
I
You
don't
may not know that,
Commissioner
maybe,
Palmer.
okay.
I know when we took them in, we asked for their personnel files because they were
Okay.
gonna be under the personnel policy.
All right,
And they're using our insurance, so we'd have I don't know if there's duplicates. That happens, I mean,
Okay.
all the time. Like, in my office, we have the personnel files for all my employees in HR, their medical files are in HR, but I keep a personnel file, with their stuff around the office, and I think that's pretty commensurate with
I just want
all,
to make sure they're
with all offices.
secure and one,
Oh,
one place.
absolutely.
Okay.
That's federal law.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
have to be secure. You're not gonna see our personnel files laying out anywhere.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify something that I was incorrectly told.
That's, according to Kim, that's where they're at.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner McCamey?
in the absence of any type of an agreement, I think we need to pass this and forward it to the full commission, and then that gives the cities the next 2 or 3 months to either say yea or nay.
Okay.
And then that, we start our budget process in February for the next year. And we will know in February if City of Rocky Top elects not to pay it or not to sign the agreement, then say, okay, you're on your own. The same way with Norris, the same way with Clinton. If they don't agree to it, then, you know, we just exclude them and keep what we've got. But, I
Hey,
think
Joe, you're up next.
you're,
Okay.
Oh.
but it doesn't, it doesn't have any effect on this year, the operation this year. And there is kind of an urgency because like I said, you know, the cities need some time to think about it.
I know it's gonna be tough for City of Rocky Top, because we was in a meeting last Thursday, and their finances are extremely close.
Yeah.
And for them to take on more of a financial responsibility for the library, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
And
but
the
we need
mayor
to-
even said that,
That's what I said, we need to know
Yeah.
that before we start our budget in February.
absolutely, I understand that.
And we get it out and get it over with now, because if we have no agreement now, this is better than what we had.
I understand.
Thinking about the CPI in here, I was thinking, should we put a specific date period for the year in there? Say like from June 30th
It'd
to
be
June
fiscal year.
30th every year?
It's on the, CPI's on the calendar year.
It's on the calendar year, okay. Do you think we should specify that, and when?
Sorry.
I'll be glad to, just run it, but the CPI is, on a calendar year.
Okey-dokey.
We can't determine that.
Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, I just see too many markups that people are talking about that need to be fixed. It's just too many. I think I would like to see a more cleaner proposal here, something that's a little bit more tight, as I like to say. But I just see too many things here that we're talking about that needs to be tweaked and fixed.
Any other discussion? Mayor?
Commissioner Isabel or Chairman Isabel, if you're going to pass it, if you, I would like to recommend that you do put to Commissioner Barron's point, a term of the agreement so that it addresses those points about committing future commissions to, you know, I understand what Commissioner McCamey is saying. We're already doing this. This is basically formalizing it. But I do think it should have an end date, if you could just add that language to it.
Okay, is everybody okay with that? Maker the motion, second.
Well, I mean, if it's just gonna end, you know, when do we negotiate, you know, and,
Every year, the
I mean,
budget cycle.
but, yeah, I don't have a problem with it going on an annual basis, or fiscal year basis.
They've, was a good point brought up early. There is a maintenance of effort already signed by the county and the cities that says this is our contribution to this library system, and that's a contract. And we've got the current one in place, signed by all the mayors, but we do have that maintenance of effort agreement.
It's my understanding, if this passes tonight, the cities still have ample time to bring their discussion to this committee for
Yes,
any
right.
changes.
There's
Yeah,
nothing.
before our budget cycle.
Yeah, they're in their budget cycle, this is what they promised us, and that's the only change. We'll get with them on the utility issue, make sure where we're at on that, if that's subject to negotiation or not.
Okay.
That's totally up to this body.
All right.
And one last thing, Mr. Chairman, I do think there are lots of things that still need to be addressed on this, and we really, this isn't just about the library board. Anderson County, we need to do a better job of outlining all of the things that we pay for with our partnerships and relationships, and, you know, a lot of times we'll look at an issue and we say, oh, well, we're only making a contribution of 30,000, but then we're also providing space. It may be subpar space or it may be premium space, utilities. We may be paying the broadband. I think commission needs to see all of that, and we need to do a better job of presenting all of that information to you so that when you do get requests in front of you, you're able to properly measure that against, if, say, a nonprofit comes and asks for a contribution, and they say, well, nonprofit X gets this, we need to be able to say yes, but also we're giving you space, utilities, cybersecurity, the IT team. There is value to that the taxpayers are underwriting, so.
And again, that's what Vice Chairman Palmer pointed out to me. I wasn't able to make the meeting. In her point, she brought some of these things out, that that's what we need to work on in our reorganization. Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is James Arthur. I'm in 100 Delmar Circle in Oak Ridge. And I'm not a lawyer, but I have a few observations. I did just check the Tennessee Code Title 10, Section 103A1, and there's another provision. And it does say that in a community of our size, the library board should consist of 7 members. I had seen an earlier section that said it could be 7, 9, or 11, but that applies to communities with a population in excess of 320,000. But for our size, Ms. Mansfield appears to be correct as far as that goes. And in my reviewing this proposal, it appears to me that it sort of codifies the current confusion in cement in some senses, because the people who hire and fire the employees are not the people who pay them, and the people who pay them can't hire and fire. So that feels a little out of kilter or something. I'm not sure about, I'm not against it, I'm not stating that. I just think it could be clarified that if the county pays their checks, but they're answering to the library board, that feels like some sort of a mismatch to me. But, thank you, appreciate you hearing
Thank
the
you for your
comments.
time. Anything else?
I think I would like to offer an amendment to the motion. I'm not opposed to this, but I am for clarity. And several good points have been brought up. So I would like to, all of the things that have been brought up tonight, if maybe the mayor and the law director could work together on this and make sure that all of the things that we have discussed tonight were addressed, all of the language is cleaned up that Commissioner Allen had suggested, and bring another draft to us next month at operations, and then go forward from there. I think we can spend a month. I think we have time to spend a month to get this a little maybe more clear, and I think I'd like to offer an amendment to that. Just a motion to defer. Okay, a motion to defer till next month, and in the meantime, in the time we could kind of clarify it, clean it up a little bit.
Do we have a motion to defer? Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor of deferring to next month, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Show a sign of hands for defer. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion fails.
Question on the original motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All in favor of the original motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, let it be known by saying no.
No.
Motion fails. First time we've had a deadlock in operations I can remember.
As I said, I'm not opposed to this. I want us to have a clear contract and clear, language. But just what we've been through, just as the gentleman said, we're kind of codifying confusion. And I just think that we should present as best to our ability, clear language right now, and go forward before we present it to the cities, before we, I
Mr.
just think we should have it all down.
Commissioner McCain.
What, I've heard several items discussed, and then Jay explained, what is it exactly that you want in it? Can anybody tell me what they want in there that's not in it, or what's in there that you want out?
Well, I think that was why the motion to defer was seemingly, half and half, because there's
Well, I
some
know, but
good
I
questions.
don't know of anything, I've not heard of any specific that they want in it, or
Mhm.
that they want out, so why, what are we gonna do? Is you want same motion, or same resolution for next month? Is that what the deferral, the one that wanted to defer wanted?
Well,
mean,
would we be able to, the things that the mayor suggested that we are paying for, would we want to have that outlined in this? Since
This
this
is
is a
this is my
contract.
notes, okay, and I'll be glad to work on it for you, Commissioner Palmer.
Okay.
I'll do as this body suggests, but it's for me to work with the mayor in clarifying some of these issues. The mayor mentioned she'd like to see a durational term,
Yes.
and I see that a little bit different than what Commissioner Varan asked for. But she's talking about a term for the agreement. We're talking about 5, 10 years, but it kind of leaves it open each year with that CPI in there. But I'll be glad to do that. Then I'll look at your state statute, that 10.3.101. Commissioner Varan wanted me to elaborate and detail the calendar year, how that runs. Be glad to do that. I'm gonna talk with Robbie tomorrow and get the absolute lowdown on the utilities. And because I've heard a couple different things there. We've got one typo that I see. I want to make sure we're operating correctly within TCA 3-101 and 103, the 102, the board powers and the composition of the board there. Get that. Anything else that people talked about, please let me know. I'll be glad to work it in and come back and tell you exactly what I put in here and the reasons why. But right now, these are the things I've got to work on to try to solve this issue.
And my hesitation on voting for it tonight is I want to talk to the mayor and the city manager first, so they'll know firsthand, because I'm elected to express their vote. So I just want to talk to them, let them know firsthand.
But this resolution, or this agreement, goes into effect as soon as the commission approves it. The utilities, that's already in there. It's addressed in this agreement that the cities will pay those in the future. We may be paying them now, I don't know. The cities may be paying them, but this year's set. This has nothing to do with what's happening right now. This is just going forward, and we negotiate with the city. And it's spelled out, the utilities will be paid by the cities. The maintenance on the building will be paid by the city. That's what I'm saying. What is in there that we want to either take out, or what do we need to add to it? I've not heard anybody say, I want to add this, or I'd like to amend it and add this, or I've not heard anybody say, I'd like to amend it and, take this out. So I can present the same one next month, but if there's something that we need to talk about here tonight,
I have a
I'd like to know what it is.
question. So, the things that you just listed, will that change the verbiage in this contract at all?
Yeah,
Okay, so that would be presented, and that will be what was changed, and what will be presented next month.
the effective date right now reads as soon as it's signed, okay?
Okay,
I can put that off in the future too. It's an open agreement right now. That's why I'm bringing it to you. Tell me what you want to see in here, what you feel comfortable with. We'll embody it in here. We'll get something that gets a majority vote and take it up from there.
So we can bring it up next month and
But
show us time.
About Commissioner Barron's question about or maybe it's Commissioner Allen's question about the Tennessee Code. It's in there, the Tennessee Code. You know, it's up to you to decide, you know, but this agreement, it's gonna have to be in the agreement, that Tennessee Code, so we're not changing that. You're just gonna give us a clarification of what that code
That's correct.
says, but that's not gonna be in the agreement, the clarification.
That's correct. That's two different issues.
That's what I'm saying, I still don't see anything that needs to be added or anything that needs to be taken out. And, you know, I just don't understand
Joe,
why
if
we
you wanna go
can't
ahead
go
and make
ahead.
a phone call, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, we're gonna be here a while.
Yeah, because we're gonna take a break here shortly. But anyway.
That motion failed, Mr. Chairman, so I'll make a motion that we go ahead and move Mr. Barrett up and let him get out of here. He's, you know,
Second.
he's been sitting here
Got a
for a
motion
while.
second, all agree with that, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett. Thank you, I appreciate that. And this is discussion on combining A1 and A2 districts.
Right, I'm Joe Barrett with the East Tennessee Development District, and I work with the County Planning and Zoning Office. And close to 2 years now, we've been going through the zoning resolution and trying to improve it. And in talking with Commissioner Isbell, I understand there's some questions about the two different agricultural districts, the A1 and A2. We're actually proposing to combine those into one zoning district. And it kind of stands to reason we're trying to improve the zoning resolution. We're trying to tailor it to Anderson County, make it more efficient, more user-friendly. And if you had a chance to look at these agricultural districts, they're very similar. They're not identical, but there are subtle differences in them. But as far as the permitted uses, the primary uses in both districts would be agricultural, farming, single-family, and townhouses for the most part. And the majority of the county is zoned either A1 or A2. So it really wouldn't have much of an effect. It's mainly just for the efficiency of the zoning resolution, we're trying to streamline it, make it more user-friendly by the format and some of the regulations. And we're also trying to tailor it to Anderson County based on some of the issues that we have dealt with in the past to make it more applicable to the county and not just a codified version of regulation. So to answer your question, it's really two redundant zoning districts that are very similar to each other that we're going to combine into one is with the proposal. And at some point, I will say we have these workshops the second or the first Tuesday of every month, and all the commissioners are more than welcome to attend those if you so choose. And I try to send updates to the county mayor periodically so that you're not hit with all the changes at once, because we're going through the entire zoning resolution from beginning to end.
Been
So-
working on this since 2021, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And Commissioner
So-
Yeager's has been to some of our meetings too.
Yeah, we've had some issues that we're trying to address right now that weren't really planned. I don't know if you've heard of anything in Jefferson County about the battery energy storage facilities that have kind of popped up. And, you know, there are some things in the zoning resolution that it's virtually silent on. And so we're trying to address those in some form or fashion to put some precautions in place for area residents. And I think the other one was Bitcoin mining that we're looking into. Evidently that's blown up in some communities also, so we're trying to put some safeguards in place and account for that particular use. But basically we're trying to improve the zoning resolution, and I think it's been amended piecemeal over the years. It's more reactionary than anything else. You know, when you deal with an issue in the county, then typically an amendment happens to try to address that. Unfortunately, sometimes after the fact. And so we're trying to be much more proactive and put the framework in place so that if we're dealing with things in the future, we have a method of dealing with those efficiently, so.
Get Commissioner Anderson first. Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When Danny Phillips brought this to us last month, he mentioned there was one in one zoning that, and I don't know, it was some kind of multi-unit PUDs. Is that,
Right.
is that the big difference that it's allowed in one and not the other? What is the big difference in A1 and A2 right now?
Well, right now, there's not a whole lot of difference. There was a permitted use for a campground in one, but not the other. There was planned unit developments that was allowed in one and not the other. There are subtle differences, but not enough, I think, to justify having two distinct districts. And if you look at the intent statements for both districts, they're very similar. But we actually made an amendment, just an independent amendment for the campgrounds and also the planned unit developments. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's one section that we haven't gone over yet is the planned unit developments. Right now, it's broken out into 3 separate sections. It's a little confusing. Some of it is based on how you actually transfer properties, which zoning really shouldn't get into that. As far as the transfer of properties, it should just be more design review and allowing flexibility to design something a little bit more innovative than your conventional development, because that's the whole purpose of the planned unit developments. But yeah, that's one section we have not had a workshop on yet, but that should be coming up. Like I said, we've had a couple things that have come up that we have trying to address in the zoning that's kind of put that back. But it's been almost 2 years now that we've been going through this.
Commissioner McCammon?
And under number 5, was this the same thing?
Same thing.
Okay, and so it was a recommendation from the planning commission to combine A1 and A2?
That's correct.
And they would just have one agricultural district? And whatever was in 2 now could be in 1, and whatever was in 1 could be in 2?
More or less just streamlining
Yeah.
and reducing a lot of the redundancy in the language.
Okay, so
Right, I don't think this is an independent amendment that's gonna come before the county commission anytime soon. Once we're complete with evaluating the entire zoning resolution, we're first gonna go to the operations committee and, go over, answer any questions and go over exactly what changes have been made. Like I said, I've been trying to periodically forward those amendments because there's just so many. You're talking about the entire zoning resolution. But the campgrounds and I believe the planned unit developments, those were independent amendments that should be going through the process for the county commission to consider.
So.
But the combining the A1 and A2,
Combine
that's
those
that's
two.
not,
That's what planning commission asked
That's
for.
planning commission recommendation?
It would be a recommendation, yes, sir.
Okay, I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a motion and a second by Commissioner Allen. Also, we'll give that second to Commissioner Varyn as well.
I got a question.
Okay.
These are taxed the same, A1 and A2?
Yeah, your taxes aren't really affected by the zoning necessarily. They're affected by the use of the property itself.
Okey-doke.
So with the permitted uses being so similar, it really wouldn't have any effect one way or another. But it's not something zoning addresses as far as the taxes.
I have a quick question. So if we combine A1 and 2, one zone, will we have PUDs and campgrounds in the combination?
Yes, we will.
We will, okay. So nothing's being taken out.
It's not being taken out, but the planned unit developments will probably be structured so that you can do a planned unit development in virtually any district. That allows them to come up with new innovative designs for developments. That could be residential, it could be commercial. Right now, it's somewhat limited, but we'd like to kind of open that up to try to encourage innovative developments in Anderson County. So more than likely, and it's not finalized yet, but more than likely, some of the discussions would revolve around allowing that in most districts.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mondale?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, I'm trying to understand this. The current process allows an individual to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and make a case to change it, correct?
In very limited cases. There's actually enabling legislation that justifies, for example, a variance. Okay, there's certain criteria you should meet in order for the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant a variance. They can't take action that would have the effect of amending the zoning. For example, they couldn't grant a variance that permitted a use that was prohibited in a particular district. That's more a legislative function. And the board is more of a hardship board or administrative board.
Yeah, I
So
agree
they're
with
very
what you
limited, but they can
Yeah,
offer some relief.
It's kind of what we do when we have our public hearings. We take up issues such as what you just mentioned.
Rezonings.
Yeah, and we have a public hearing and we vote it up or down based on questions and presentations from the public.
Right, right.
I still don't understand the need. I hear what you're saying. It makes it smoother, streamlines, but, you know, what I've heard from this discussion, not just tonight, but is these special exceptions and taking an A1 agriculture forestry district, that's kind of gonna go away in essence. And that concerns me. We're not making any new forest, and, you know, I feel like there's a process in place to address requests. You know, another thing that was said, there was a 500-acre development and the guy wasn't gonna move forward because we didn't have them together or whatever, what we're proposing here. You know, I never heard the guy come and ask us or, you know, make a presentation for it. You know, I don't even know what it was. But it concerns me. I don't have enough information to support this tonight, and I won't, because I'm fearful we're giving up something that we won't have any say-so in. Because another thing I heard is this is going to give the planning commission or the zoning folks the ability to make that decision without coming to us, and that concerns me too.
Right. So really, the overall effect of this is that you're taking the permitted uses that are in the A1 and the A2, and you're combining those into one district. So there's not gonna be really any real changes at this point. So what the zoning is out there right now, what's in effect, is still gonna be in effect. Only it's gonna be under one agricultural district instead of two. So you would still have those special exceptions. The permitted uses would all be combined because they're so similar already. That it's really more efficient to, in my opinion, to have just one agricultural district instead of two.
If it's all gonna be the same, why the need to change?
Well, they're a redundant district. We're trying to make the zoning more efficient. So there's really so little difference, subtle changes between them, that there's no reason to have two separate agricultural districts when they could be combined into one.
Thank you.
Commissioner Elliott?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned when you combine these two zoning, that there would be some kind of innovations.
There's a section in the zoning under plan unit developments. And what that is you have your conventional developments with your standard setbacks. And the plan unit developments are more design regulations that allow you to come up with a little bit more flexible design.
Yeah.
And right now, those plan unit development regulations are limited to certain zoning districts. And that's the way the zoning is structured now, and it's not gonna change until we're completely done with the process. And so we're proposing that we allow those plan unit development design guidelines in all the zoning districts, or most of them. So we're
those would
trying to
be
open it up a little bit, yeah. So it's not a separate zoning district on itself, it's more design guidelines for a particular development.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
well, like I said, y'all are more than welcome to attend the workshop. We have one at 6 o'clock on the first Tuesday of every month. And would value your input. But
All those
the last thing I would like to do, though, is go through this 2-year process, make all these recommendations, and then spring it on the operating committee or the county commission. So there's gonna come a point when we're done with the process that we go over these changes, preferably one by one, until all the questions are answered, and then we'll have to go through the process of having the public hearings and so forth. So it's not anything that's gonna slide under the radar or anything. There's a framework and a process in place.
Is very good board. I'll tell you
Transparency.
that.
One more question. So, just for clarity, if this property here is A1 and this property is A2, A1 can have campground on it, the A2 cannot, correct? Under the current system.
That's how it was until the county commission, I believe, recently passed that amendment, did they not, Commissioner Isbell? So that's the way it was structured before, so we identified that as a problem. It had a higher priority than going through the process. We needed to change that soon, and so we sent it to the county commission. They should have amended that. So it should be allowed in both districts now.
Well, we have it, that's what we're actually doing now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was the intent.
So if you make all these properties A, that means a campground can now go over here too.
It would be able
Correct.
to go in the agricultural district, yes, ma'am.
Any agricultural.
Any agricultural district, yes.
So are we looking at places that perhaps we may not want a campground or we may not want a PUD?
Right. That's a really good point. We've been somewhat limited at this point because we haven't provided GIS services in the past. And so something like this, we could look and evaluate properties around the county and do certain queries based on criteria to see what development potential we have for campgrounds and other uses around the county. We are in the process of establishing GIS services. We've had a cooperative effort from the county, and hopefully that'll be in place soon. But you can do a lot more analysis. It's not just generating nice-looking maps, but you can actually do in-depth analysis on some of the property around Anderson County. And that's really where the value is and what should be done, in theory. We've just been very limited on that. But I think that is something an endeavor that's worth looking into and really applying it on the ground in Anderson County. A little bit hesitant to do that piecemeal or across the board because there would be public hearings that would be required. You would be actually the possibility, open up the door of rezoning people's property. Typically, if there is a rezoning that takes place, it's at their request. The county doesn't go out and initiate that process and rezone somebody's property, but ideally, that's what should be done. I hope that answered your question, Orton.
Kind of.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the notes here, and it says that the public hearing was held on October 16th, 2023. Would this require another public hearing, Jay, if it passes?
Any zoning change requires a public hearing.
Once it was pulled off the last meeting, did
Yeah,
that?
we still have to go through the whole process. If the date's changed, you have to go through the whole process again, because that date and that public announcement and that public hearing is when we're gonna take action on it, and that's very important.
Thank you.
Joe, I appreciate all you do for us, really.
Thank you, appreciate it. Y'all have any more?
A lot of help and a lot of legacy history with us, and you do a great job, buddy.
Sure does.
All right, well, thank you for your time, if you don't have any more questions.
Okay. Any other questions for Joe? All in favor? Let it be known by saying aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Show of hands for aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. Motion fails.
The biggest issue I see here is, and I think Denise, Commissioner Palmer was headed that route, is you're really rezoning everybody's property. Some things that they may want protection from, they may not have protection in the future. And that people rely on our zoning resolution. They may say, this is why I moved to this particular area, to get away from this. And now you're giving that protection away. So that's the argument you'll have going down the road. I do like the argument that it makes it more simple and confined, but the problem is we've had this zoning resolution since 1977, and our county citizens rely on this zoning resolutions, and they have for years. And they've made decisions on living in the country, living in a residential area, living in an urban area because of this. And it's going to be difficult, any big comprehensive change.
And that's you remember how many people came from the Buffalo Road, Mountain Road area to protest
That's a
their
prime
campground, and this
example.
basically makes it moot, right? If it
That's
gets
right.
merged. Yeah, so.
And another thing that Joe brought up, and I was actually probably gonna ask for that to be put on intergovernmental, is about the battery process. Because TVA is one of these people that support having these battery plants. And I'm concerned that, you know, if that could happen when Bull
Is that
Run
the
moves
server
on.
farms, Joe, like they had in Washington County, they were having problems with the noise, the humming that's coming off of it?
Claiborne County's got that too.
Not exactly.
That's
These are,
Bitcoin.
remember the
Bitcoin,
rolling
yeah.
blackouts and
Yeah,
shit
yeah.
last winter? So this is a way, they have these huge batteries that they store the energy.
Oh,
That can be connected to the system. But they have some problems associated with them. There was one in Jefferson County that they were proposing, and the thing about TVA is they're advising that it's beyond zoning in the fact that it has to be in proximity to a substation in order to make an efficient
that
connection
public utility
to
exception.
the electric grid. So, it really blew up in Jefferson County, and I'm not sure they even took action at this point, just because some of the, safety precautions on them. I mean, they have
Do
been
they,
known
is
to-
it a nuisance issue with the noise, the humming?
Well, there have been instances in other states, I don't know if it's happened in Tennessee, of some of these batteries catching fire
Like
and
the
putting
plume.
toxic fumes into the air. And they, you know, you can only put so many precautions in place for something like that, so it's something we're being very careful on and what regulations, and we're still researching it, before we've got a model to go by. But above and beyond, we want to put some safeguards in place, for the residents that
Thank
could possibly live in proximity to that. And also limit that to, we're thinking the environmental industrial district. So it would be very limited to where it could go, but there's more than likely gonna be pushback on that from TVA and others who are gonna make the argument that it needs to be in
They're
proximity
gonna
to a
raise this
substation.
issue that, hey, your zoning resolution doesn't apply to us.
Yeah. So,
Now, I think one of the things we put in was to have to be at least 5 miles away from a school. So,
That may
Right.
be reasonable.
it sounds like a long distance, but when you're talking about toxic fumes in the air system, you know, I'm not sure what distance would be safe enough, to be honest with you.
Right.
So, anyway, it's something we're still grappling with.
Glad you guys are on top of this. That's an ever-changing public policy issue. I remember when I started this mess 40 years ago, it was about urban sprawl. And that's just non-existent now anymore. But thank you, Joe.
Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, I guess this is a question for Jay. You amended, or you deferred, there was a public hearing on that change, and then it went to commission, and it ended up being deferred to this body. Does that end, or do we have to have another hearing, or what happens procedurally there?
Yes, ma'am, you have to start anew.
Okay, but
Once you
is
get
that
it ironed out.
automatic, or?
Once you get it ironed out on what you're gonna do, whether you're gonna combine the two districts or not, then we have another public hearing. It's a zoning amendment at that point, it's the 15-day rule. At that point, then it comes back before this committee to vote on. Are you worried about notice? Is that your issue?
Yeah, it would be, I mean, it wouldn't be able to happen until December because.
Correct. We don't have time now.
But they voted here, so just the topic, or I guess this issue was deferred to this committee, and it has died. Does that mean we don't bring it, or will they bring it back again as part of the zoning amendment overhaul?
That's the way
or-
I see it. They're gonna bring it back as part of the zoning amendment overhaul.
Well, this is a good point, because as we go, and that's why Joe was encouraging, more commissioners to come, like Commissioner Yeager did, is this is a good time to get everybody's point of view. I mean, about a year ago, we talked about this briefly, what was coming up and some of the things that's involved. But I think now that we're getting closer to making that presentation, is why it's really important to bring things like this in front of a committee. So we know, if we're spending years putting this thing together and then it comes and it's voted down because of just one section. So this right here gives us more or less a guideline,
You're
a
exactly
game
right,
plan.
Tim. And I think if you've never gone or served on planning commission or gone to their meetings, you need to go. There's some very difficult tasks and decisions, Brookstone Ridge, you name it. Some of the hardest decisions in county government are made there at that planning commission. And the thing about those decisions are, they're everlasting for many, many years down the road. And if you really want to be informed, please go to planning commission and BZA meetings. Just sit in on one. And when we start going over their comprehensive amendments, that's probably going to require a work session, maybe two. Because I don't want to, I think Tim brought up a good point. We're going to get caught up on a little issue and not being able to pass everything together. So I would encourage a work session when we do get the final product out of Planning Commission and work through these and make sure everybody's on the same page.
Jay, you're exactly right. I'm on the Oak Ridge Planning Commission. We meet 3 times a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough job, isn't it?
And the language is since 1977, so the county has changed drastically
Absolutely.
since then.
And our districts have changed. There's no way to avoid that. It's just growth.
Okay, let's take a break. Okay, go ahead.
Before we do that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to item 3 under the Law Director's report, the interlocal agreement to libraries, and make a motion that we forward it to the county commission without a recommendation.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
That hopefully will break the 4-4 tie.
I didn't quite hear that.
Forward it to the county commission without a recommendation. And then anything that Jay can answer, anything at the full commission. But I just don't think that 4 people ought to deny the full commission the opportunity to look at it.
You ready? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion fails.
Sound good. I'm ready for that break.
The way I understand this issue is I'm bringing you back next month, these changes.
Yes, sir.
If I'm
Yes, sir.
wasting my time, let me know.
No, bring it back
Please.
next.
But I'm
Be sure
bringing,
and tell me what the changes are.
Yeah, I
I still
will.
haven't heard any.
I've got some things here that they pointed out.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
How much more is left on here?
Yeah, we want your picture. somebody asked about it, we promised to get
The
copies.
design.
This is one of the concept drawings. Okay. We'll get what we can.
Meeting back to order. If it's okay, before we go into the review of the county organizational chart and supervision, go ahead and do the discussion of the wildfires, because really what I want to do is just give recognition to everybody. You know, there were so many municipalities, volunteer fire departments, and Mr. Kidwell, if you wouldn't care to come up and tell what all you all did. So many volunteers that went and fed the people and took them water, and it's just unreal what all they've done.
So you just want a brief synopsis of everything? All right, so Saturday about 6 o'clock, one of our rescue squad members reported that he had a phone call from a family member that stated that he could see, or they could see, the hillside burning. Shortly after that, there was another local volunteer fireman who contacted dispatch, said, you know, same thing. And then the first 911 caller called in from Scott Brogan Lane, advising that they could see the flames coming down. At that time, Medford responded. They requested help from, let's see, Briceville, Marlowe, and Claxton, I think, initially. So they kind of protected the structures throughout the night there off of Scott Brogan and Wiley Cemetery. Of course, on Andy's Ridge, they kept a close eye on it. The fire progressed throughout the night, grew very rapidly. As it cooled off, it pushed the fire down the hill, started getting closer and closer to some more homes. The next morning, they were still out there. The fire chief of Medford, Josh Lane, requested us to come out there and kind of set up the incident command post. From there, we kind of set up a plan that they would work in 12-hour shifts, watching over the structures, pretty much patrolling back and forth, making sure the fire lines were holding. And this was just in the county side of things. Sunday night, we requested another crew of 12-hour operational period guys. So at that time, the initial time, it was Rocky Top, Medford, Marlowe, and Norris. And Sunday night at 9 p.m., Claxton, Clinton, I think it was just Claxton and Clinton, were there throughout the entire night, protecting those structures, making sure that it didn't break the fire line, go through, I think in total there was 52 houses, 43 outbuildings that they pretty much saved, along with Division of Forestry for cutting that fire line all the way around it. What most of them brought to the party was just the knowledge of protecting the structures, trying to create their own fire breaks till the dozer could get around to them. They would spray if it got super close to the house, and of course they would spray, but they were trying to conserve their water as much as possible. Emergency management, we came in, we kind of helped them set up their incident command, tried helping with their donations. It kind of got a little hectic with the donations at one point, so we were having to shuttle stuff away from the command post to Rocky Top's fire station. Of course, we provided the live feed. I don't know if anybody was able to watch it on Facebook. And then, of course, as I would get the updates from Division of Forestry, of course, Sunday, I tried to push out 2 updates. Monday, I pushed out 2 updates. And Monday is when they finally released the county crews. So that's when our volunteer firemen and our city firemen, they all went home. We tore down the command post, left the camera up just for monitoring for the fire departments, and of course, transparency with the citizens. How since 2016, people are terrified that could happen to us, and it could. But we tried to put it out there that, you can see this. They're actively going around, cutting the line. They didn't have to cut it multiple times. They just had to keep going over it because the leaves just kept piling on the lines. If it wasn't for the volunteer firemen, things could have been a lot different. There was a lot of homes there on Scott Brogan especially that were in severe danger when they first got out there.
Yep, absolutely. But, the communication was paramount. It kept from having mass panic, because if you take something, going back to 2016, there could have been a major panic, but everybody, the firefighters and everybody, it was just like a routine job. They knew exactly what to do and just kept doing it. And never did I hear anybody complain. Not one time.
I downloaded the app.
Thank you, Bryce. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
And a lot of people didn't even know the app existed. And, this was my first big incident as a director. So, it kind of helped me push that as the app is starting to change. And it's going to start look different once they push the new update. It'll be a lot more configurable, so you can see the E911 side of it, but then also scroll over and see the EMA side of it. So,
Good job.
I know Tim think this is twice since I've lived up on Peach Orchard that I've been able to look out behind my house, and I think you can too, and see that mountain burning. That's one of the scariest sights I think I've ever seen in my life.
I've got a picture where it looks like it's just about a quarter mile from
It
my
does.
shop.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's still got to cross this river down here at some point,
Yeah.
but that is a spooky looking sight watching that mountain burn.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all got to see the aerial images, and I don't care to share them with you, but we requested THP's helicopter Saturday or Sunday night. They flew in from Nashville, took 2 of our guys up in the air so we could get a visual oversight of what we were actually working with. And most of the pictures, all you see is a line of fire pushing down the mountain. It's an eerie look.
Yeah, it is.
Especially going back to 2016. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's all you saw on Facebook and stuff was those fire lines pushing down. So, and I don't care to share them with you guys if you wanted to. And I've requested the drone footage from the city of Oak Ridge too. So hopefully we'll have that in our hands.
Great job.
Which one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you as well. Your leadership was on full display, and I was impressed. You can call yourself, as some of the commissioners around here have said, don't call me a new commissioner, you know, I'm a commissioner. And I think you can do the same for yourself. You're the EMA director, and I appreciated the way you handled yourself and the way you interacted. Tennessee Forestry Department, everybody, Rocky Top, and then as you mentioned, City of Oak Ridge showed up, City of Clinton showed up, provided a few things. It's good to see everybody working together and making sure everybody's staying safe. At the Fire Commission, we also talked about this, and I think Bryce is going to put together a lessons learned. He called it something else, sounded a lot better.
After action report.
Yeah, thank you. And so he's going to get that together, and we want to try to, on anything we can get better at, I think we all want to learn from that so we can be even better next time. But it went great, so thank you. And Mayor was in communication. I appreciate her staying in communication as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very
And
welcome.
thank you, Mayor, for your input on that. All right, next, what we've all been waiting for,
Yay.
Vice Chairman Funk.
All right. So if you'll pull out your organizational chart that was included in your packet, I want to start out with just looking at this for a moment and say what we're addressing has nothing to do with the 2 columns on the right. Okay, those are elected offices, and so we're not discussing those at all. And during this workshop, this strategic planning workshop, we discussed the need to streamline processes and have more efficient government, okay? So in this process, in this discussion, we identified 3 departments. There were several departments, but it's late, and we can't tackle all of this tonight. We'll save some of it for future meetings. But there were 3 particular departments that were different in their makeup, and we had a lot of questions, a lot of discussion. Some of those have been verbalized tonight. And these 3 departments are committee-led, and the chair of the committee is responsible for the daily supervision. And so the 3 departments that I'm particularly talking about right now are the Human Resource Department, the IT Department, and the Tourism Department, okay? And I want to start first by saying that there was no criticism of any of the employees or any of the department heads. Everyone is doing a great job there. This has nothing to do with how the department functions, their job duties, nothing against them. They're all doing great. But these departments have a very narrow focus. They focus on human resource, IT, tourism. And that's by design. We don't ask them to focus on a broader picture. We ask them to focus on their specific job. And it's not their responsibility to look at the broader picture or the workings of the entire county. So we don't ask them to consider that 10,000-mile high view. So as we begin to ask questions and discuss the current structure, and if you look at all of these over here on the left, it looks like all of these departments fall under county commission. We need to clean up this organizational chart because we know some of them do not. We have no authority over some of these departments. But these three departments that I've mentioned, they're a little bit unusual in how they are daily supervised, and there's just some ambiguity there. So the committee is formed of elected officials. The chairman of the committee is responsible for the daily supervision of two of the departments, and then the tourism has been very vague. We've talked about this in previous meetings. So as a result of the workshop and the discussion from 10, 11 commissioners that were there, there is a strong desire to streamline the process of these departments, that, as I said tonight, we'll just deal with these three and bring clarity to this organizational chart. And as a result of what I heard from the commissioners at the workshop, I'd like to offer a motion right now that the mayor or the law director would draft 3 separate resolutions to bring back to the operations committee next month that would place human resources, IT, and tourism, let me back up, human resources and IT under the finance director and tourism under the mayor. And I'll leave that there and have discussion.
Making that motion, right?
I'm making that as a motion.
Second.
A discussion?
Let me ask you a couple things here. I just
Okay.
need some clarity. Human Resources and IT under Finance Director.
Yes.
Finance Director reports to a committee.
Okay, the finance director, though, is set up by the Act 81 Act, correct?
Right, state law.
And so he has, or the finance director has all kinds of oversight, comptroller, all kinds of review, that sort of thing.
Right.
So they work together. It's kind of, especially human resources.
This is what I want you to understand, is the background with both IT and Human Resources. These were stakeholder committees, okay? That the people on those committees are the stakeholders that utilize those departments.
Yes.
At one time before, we had our HR under Accounts and Budget. That was under the 57 Act. Okay, it was a little bit different. They reported to the Director of Accounts and Budget and nobody else. Nobody felt like that they had the ability to work with this individual, change any policies. That's how they came up with HR Advisory Committee, that it was all the stakeholders, all the elected officials, all the major players that would be utilizing that person came and brought them under one umbrella, and they came up with the comprehensive personnel policy, which had to be approved by the county commission. That's why they're under this county commission umbrella right here. Is if you go this route under the finance director, and I'll have to look at the statute to see if that's even permissible, but are you eliminating that advisory committee? That's my big question.
No, I'm not advocating to
Because these
eliminate the
people,
advisory.
that on both issues here, IT and Human Resources, the IT, the background on that was, for years, we had different IT companies coming in here servicing separate departments. It was a mess. And we talked about it and talked about it. We were duplicating services and we were wasting money, and we brought our own IT person in here to cover the whole county wide. And that's another stakeholder committee. All these departments came together and say, look, we'll get rid of our money for IT if we can have our own county-funded department.
Okay.
And so what you're saying is the finance director will supervise human resources and will supervise the day-to-day operations of the IT department, both those committees, but we'll still have the committee in place
As advisory.
as advisory.
And they are the stakeholders, so they will be able to advise. we're asking an elected official over here to supervise a department on this side.
The what?
Well, if it's like the stakeholders are all elected officials, correct?
Let's see, I
Except for
serve
the
ex
finance
officio
director.
on IT, and I serve as a member. I really don't want to be. Hal is on HR. He's appointed, but I can work out those details, but,
It's the day-to-day
you're looking at the
daily
day-to-day
supervision.
functions.
Yes.
Do the HR committee and the IT department, do they have any say-so in the hiring and firing of this individual that's running these departments, or is that strictly under Robbie?
Well, that's something we probably need to work out in the resolution, or in the
Okay,
resolution.
I'll bring you back
right.
some drafts here. This, and let you make some decisions,
Well,
okay?
not just me.
I know.
Okay,
I'll let
yes.
the whole body make decisions
Yes.
on this. The tourism, I've got a memo coming out on it, and it's a complicated issue, my gosh. It goes back numerous
I can't
years.
find a resolution where for that department. Is there, I know we've talked about this before. I found
I've got
some
a memo.
bylaws.
I've got a memo coming out
Okay.
that the mayor asked me to do a couple months ago, and it's, thank goodness we got Annette and we got some other people that had some legacy documents that we can put together. That'll help you with this. And actually, Commissioner Wandell asked me for a memo in legal services on the formulation of some of these other committees, correct? I think this will go hand in hand. And, I can take care of this tourism board. What I'm asking is, I'm gonna put something down on paper like I did for Robert on the library board.
Okay.
And feel free to move it around and massage it until you get something you like. And then we'll get something that everybody agrees upon, that we can find a majority vote and get it done. But I'll work this out and go through it and, change some things around, and I'll send it to the mayor first, make sure she's good with it. And, but it looks like we're dealing with two that are pretty much the same. They'll report to the finance director, who reports to the finance committee. And then tourism will be straight to the mayor, correct?
That's what I'm asking, yes.
Okay.
Unless,
There's a
yes.
co-issue here of the tourism board. And I'm addressing that in that memo. Of course, there's a state statute that allows the mayor to make appointments to these boards and committees, or what says boards and commissions, I think, something like that. And so that would, historically, the tourism board has been appointed, started with their bylaws being adopted by the county commission back in early 90s. That says they bring the people forward to county commission. And Terry, do you make recommendations at all on tourism? And county commission confirms. So we got to get back under that state statute scheme somehow. And this is something that we've been approving for many, many, many years. Every time we approve their bylaws, in a sense, it's in conflict with state statute. So we've got to get that back on track too. So basically what that would mean is the mayor, if it works out this way, the mayor would run the tourism department and she would appoint that board. So that's my first glimpse of that issue, you understand?
I do want to make a note on, so Jay, you said from 57, HR was in that committee, or in the, HR was in the budget office. Then
Prior to
there was a period
06 or
where
something.
the day-to-day, and this is kind of the same issue that came up in the legal services meeting on who's the employer for purposes of leave and hours and FMLA and all of those things. For years, the day-to-day of HR reported to the mayor. And then there was a resolution in 2016 that eliminated that. And so I never signed that because the way it was then effectually operating was that the chair of the committee was serving as the supervisor. And For years, that chair had been a commissioner, which is not, commission is not authorized. You've heard Charlie Curtis say this at your meetings. Commissioners can't manage. You all are the governing authority. You set the policies and procedures and appropriate, but you can't manage. And,
I never
so,
liked that organization
I just
at
kind
all.
of wanted to clarify, there was a period of time where the day-to-day, it still was operating under the HR Advisory Committee, but the day-to-day report, much like the Veteran Service Office, that is its own board. The hiring authority is specifically laid out. It has nothing to do with the mayor. That board doesn't have anything to do with the mayor. But the day-to-day, because there has to be somebody to sign your leave and do all of those
Time
things.
sheets, everything.
And IT did start out, I think Director Erb actually hired IT, and so they were under finance for a while, and then it went out to this advisory board, so.
Yeah, the original HR resolution, HR Advisory Committee resolution, put it under the mayor.
Yes.
And I
And I'll
advocated
point out,
that
I looked
position.
at some organizational charts from other counties, and, you know, all of these fall under the mayor in some counties. So
But that's not what you're asking me, to
that's
put
not
it
what
under
I've asked.
finance,
That's not what the motion was.
the finance.
It was to go under finance.
Gotcha.
Just, I will say, there just needs to be a point of contact. It doesn't, I'm not comfortable, and I think I heard other commissioners say in the workshop, we're not comfortable with a committee-led department where they meet once a month, the chairman could change every year, and you have someone different managing, and two, there's just ambiguity there. There's too many questions, there's too many things like who does this, who does that? And those were the questions that we kept throwing around in our workshop. And in an effort to kind of streamline and to kind of get it to that one point person. And we elect officials to run, and the county mayor, as we heard again in the workshop, is the CEO or the custodian of the county. Just in an effort to try to get some of these things clarified, streamlined. I'm not advocating that the board change at all. They still have
I got you.
input, not any sort of other change, job description, salary, nothing like that. But just having that streamlined to where they go to for daily supervision.
That's no problem at all.
And I'll let whoever else would like
But
to.
you understand, we've got numerous committees out here.
Yes. And
That,
some of these we'll need to talk about in the future. I mean, that's on this left-hand side here. We'd like to bring clarity.
which ones do you want to talk about?
Well, not tonight. But these were the ones that were resolution or bylaws. Some of the others have statutes and private acts attached to them, and that's a different conversation, has different,
Some of them are set up by state law.
exactly.
You're looking at,
And they don't need to be under a county commission on an organizational chart. So it may just be a process of cleaning up this organizational chart. But we're starting with right here, and this is just in an effort to kind of get us kind of streamlined, and for clarity's sake, where everyone knows who reports to who and who's in charge of daily responsibilities.
it's a mixed bag. Some of them are, state statute ones, and some of them are created by resolution, and,
Not these three we're talking
Not these three.
yeah, well, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So next month, we'll take up these three.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a resolution, and you make changes, there'll be a template, and you set it up the way you want.
We got to vote on it first.
Yep.
I got a question. Jay, who hires finance director?
Finance committee,
Finance
strictly,
committee. So that's by state law.
state law.
Okay, so you're gonna have somebody that's been hired by a committee reporting to an individual who's hired by a committee.
That's correct.
Don't
I
make
brought that
sense.
out.
I'm a firm believer in if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. I don't see a problem with any of it the way it's happening right now, so.
I'll be glad to do what you tell me to, but yeah, I'm looking down this list, and E911 is nothing but a state statute committee. You got the IDB, Anderson County Economic Development Association, ACDC, Health Facilities Board, Library Board, state statute. I mean, it goes on and on and on. You've got numerous committees out here.
But for the people at home, that right now it falls under the jurisdiction of the county commission.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know where you place them, because if we didn't have committees, this government wouldn't function. It's that simple.
Well, for the boards as such, but these three, we're just.
That's the ones
looking
I'm
at
working
these
on.
three
That's the
tonight.
ones I'll bring back next
Okay.
month.
So, human resources, IT, and tourism, there's no county commission resolution that created any of those committees or a
Yes.
private act or anything?
There is a county commission resolution on HR and information technology. There's 2 resolutions passed by this body on those. They've been amended.
It's fairly recent.
What,
Those are fairly recent.
HR was 06, 08, something like that. Tourism is a strange character. It's a mix of state law and it's a mix of county commission bylaws that have been approved numerous times over the years. But the composition of that tourism board is not set by state law. So that makes me feel, that it needs to fall under the mayor for her to appoint that board. But some would think that, hey, county commission has been setting this board for years. I mean, I want to say it's back to the mid-90s, when it was actually, at one point, it was originally set up by county commission. They approved the bylaws, and it was actually outside of county government, and they brought them in. It's got a strange history to it. It was almost set up like a not-for-profit, people trying to just cultivate the tourism industry in Anderson County. But it's a strange bird. It's kind of a mixed bag on tourism. But the way I understand it, that tourism director was originally brought by the county mayor to the county commission for confirmation when we hired Ms. Wells. That's the way I understand it happened that way. So that was a mayor appointee. Then you get down into the composition of the board. And the board, is a very large board. I think county commission votes on the board, but the names of the nominees are brought forward by through Ms. Wells through the tourism. That may need to change. That may need to go back to the mayor. And I'm working on that issue right now, where the mayor appoints that board subject to ratification by the county legislative body. And I don't know how she wants to set that up, if she wants to make it as large as it is now or put it under a smaller control. But those are some of the issues we're facing right there.
And there's bylaws inside that committee that says who it's derived of, like, somebody from the chambers, somebody from like.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I've
bylaws
seen it.
there.
Do we need to, are we amending those resolutions, or do we need to, would we be rescinding?
We would
if we
probably
switch?
amend HR and IT, but this tourism issue is a different issue. I mean, it's different than the IT and HR. IT and HR, I could take care of Ms. Palmer's amendments really fast. I could have that back next month. But tourism, I'll give you the memo. I'll let y'all decide where you want to go with it. But, Mayor, do you want that big task?
I think they're just asking about, a reporting structure and a day-to-day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The tourism is, okay, you're taking on that
Well, I mean,
department
it's
and
not a
you're taking on the
day-to-day,
board.
it's,
Yeah, you're taking on the department and the board. And, that's what it looks like. It may shake out to be. But anyway, expect 2 resolutions from me next month and a memo on tourism. Is that okay?
Only if it passes.
Oh, well,
Let's get Commissioner Allen.
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering, would it be helpful to really note on the diagram how these committees and boards were set up? If we could note there, it's a state statute, or it's a private act, or it's a resolution, note it on this diagram for each of
Yeah,
those
I'll be
departments.
glad
Would
to.
that be helpful?
You've actually got that in place. Annette has a list of your boards and committees that I think all of you have, and it tells right there on the board and committee how it's set up.
Okay.
If it's a state statute, it has a state statute. You still have that, don't you?
Yes, it's on
The private act, but that also goes back to the question or the request from Commissioner Wandell. He asked me to do a brief memo on the inception of these departments, how we got here, and what the authority, legal authority is, so.
Yeah, I mean, if it's on the diagram, I think it would be helpful too, than to have it separate.
That's the budget book diagram he's talking about.
What?
Yeah, if it's on the diagram.
he's talking about.
I'm sorry, sir. It's the what?
Budget.
Budget book.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a copy, the one that was, I guess, was Commissioner Palmer.
Yeah, it's in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed it's a little bit, it's flawed. You got regional planning, and then you got a CETA underneath that. That doesn't exist that way, and then you have no mention of several boards that are on here. You have no BZA. Just you got IDB,
Like Elections Commission.
Election Commission, that's all state law. Then you fought Health and Facilities Board. Yeah, there's a lot. But anyway, I'll give you your product back. You can decide what you want to do next month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify before we vote on this. I'm in support of it, by the way. Mayor, you did not want these other two departments reporting to you, correct? I just want to make sure you're okay with the way we're proceeding.
I'm fine with that. I
Okay.
mean, I think if you look at the function of what both of those departments do, that is a natural fit.
Okay.
I mean, I do think, so I'll go back to those resolutions. I do think those positions are supposed to report to the mayor, and I think if you look at other counties, that's how it operates. But I think, I would agree to that. I would sign that resolution, and I think it's a fit for the function of the finance office. Because if you look at a day-to-day situation, you know, your finance department is the heart of your government operations. If they're not functioning, nobody's getting paid, nothing else is happening. So from a cybersecurity standpoint or risk management, benefits, those departments are having to talk very much, very often, work very closely together anyway. So it's natural.
I just want to make sure
Yep.
you're okay with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. I want to know who's got the coffee. It smells great. Yes.
Smells burnt.
Yeah, that's the next
The
thought.
microphone.
What kind of coffee do you drink?
Smells like coffee. Chief's coffee. See, under new business, we've got the.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on from that subject, I know Commissioner Palmer only wanted to talk about 3, but could it be possible to just go ahead and have Jay work on the Veterans Office? I'd like for the Veterans, Mayor, as she said, she already oversees it pretty much from a date, I'd like to make that a formal process where she's his direct report to. We don't have that now, I don't think. And we still keep our advisory or, Veterans Committee and all that stuff.
Sure.
Is everybody okay with that? Are you okay with that, Mayor?
You okay?
We'll just go ahead and make that.
I want to make a motion to have the Veterans Service Office report directly to the mayor and have Jay work on that one too.
Second. Got motion second, discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimous.
And I'll just follow that up with, he would like a pay raise. I'm just kidding, sort of.
New business, crop assistance by.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've talked to a few of the farmers around Andersonville and some outside the county, but Granger County, I think their commission meeting is tonight. They are passing some kind of resolution or sending a letter to Congressman Burchett asking for some drought assistance with, particularly with hay production and things like that. Of course, we're in a different congressional district, but I think this week, depending on the rainfall we get at the end of the week, we are going to be kind of right at that 2016 Gatlinburg fire level of the drought that we're actually in.
Right.
And I don't have all the, I've got some of the maps, what drought index, what the number we're at, but we're kind of right on that cusp this week. So from what I understand, we're about at 50% or more in the decrease in hay production, which I know you've got
My hay stinks.
that on your farm. And we might be able to tie in some of like the economic value of that, the timber, you know, what we lost.
That's a very good idea.
Wildfires, and I know the federal budget, you know, they're kind of debating that right now, but I just wanted to put it out there if we could possibly either have Jay maybe or the mayor get together and write a letter or request to Congressman Fleischman's office to either, I don't know how to, not sure exactly what to ask for, but just to be considered for that drought assistance or farm service aid. I don't think we're in a disaster area, but something outside.
It's up to you.
I don't care. And I will talk to Bryce too, like a lot of things, like if they're flood assistance or various areas of assistance, sometimes they run through a particular department, and it may just be us needing to alert the department of where we stand on rainfall. So
Okay.
if you want to work on a letter, I'll do the research on, with Bryce and other agencies and.
Can you let me know?
Yep.
Because that's very important to the letter. Yeah, we get it done.
Okay, yeah, particularly, I know they thankfully saved all the structures, but I know the timber had value, and I know the hay's.
There's
that's
little or no
great.
protein right now on mine.
Right.
It's a mess.
Do you need a motion or anything, or is that?
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
I so moved. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous. Annette, did you get that motion?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you send me that data?
Yeah, I'll forward that to you.
Any old business coming before us?
Mr. Chairman, I had something else under new
Okay.
business. I apologize. Mr. Chairman, I would like to obtain the resolution and any private acts as it relates to the Anderson County Rescue Squad. Do we have any documentation on the Anderson County Rescue Squad? How it was formed, how it operates?
I think they're an independent 501c
They are.
with a governing board.
We are, just like the volunteer fire.
So,
Yes.
so they don't have any ties to our board at all?
We give them a donation.
Yeah, other than being an agency that we give to along with the fire agencies.
Got a seat on fire commission, normal
Okay.
stuff.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, there's a little bit of new business. I was looking at our commissioner website, and there's just one mistake on there. It says that we hold nonpartisan elections. It should be partisan elections on our website. Just a little small change that someone could make on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else come before this committee?
For old business? Yeah. Mayor, is there, I know that there's been some action taken. Any updates on the lapel pins?
So I did not, I apologize, it's just been a very, very busy month. I did not get, the budget amendment in on time. So they put it under new business, and the meeting ended up going so very long that they just were like, let's do that Robbie said, we're just gonna do that next month. So I can, if you want to do it as a special I can put it on my mayor's report.
I'd like to figure out how, I mean, I would even buy my own. I want to have them to give to the kids, you know, go to schools, all that kind of good stuff. If it's going to be a, you know, concern for folks on the cost, I'll just buy my own. I just need to have the authority to do it, and I want to buy whatever.
It's so expensive when you buy a small
Yeah.
batch. Do you have a vendor for that?
Yeah, we have, so my recommendation was going to be that we purchase, either 1,000 of one and 500 of the second one, or we do 500 of the three that were favored by commission. And I think it ends up being somewhere between $1,500 and $1,700. And I did, talk to Robbie about just some sources of funding. It could be, for instance, it is a marketing thing for Anderson County. We could take it from some tourism funds and talk to Stephanie about that. I mean, you could take it from general fund, but it's really not that large of a contribution. I get citizens who reach out all the time who are in the collector's business, and they want something from Anderson County, and some cities do keys, some do flags, or things like that. I think it's a worthy thing, and I just need some money in a code, and I can make it happen.
The work that you and whoever did on those was amazing. I love it.
Mr. Yeager.
Yeah, Yeager, good job, sir. Whatever needs to happen, I'd just like to see them get moving and get some in our hands.
I make a motion that we forward to the county commission the purchase of the lapel pins, with the mayor to provide the funding request. And of
Okay.
course, without it being to the budget committee, it'll take a 2/3 vote, but I think we can get that.
I can put what I already have that Robbie is gonna add to the budget agenda, and I can get it to Annette first thing in the morning.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Okay. One thing that you could use that money, because I heard some discussion about using taxpayer money to buy those lapel pins. If you use the money that's coming in on that gambling money, that internet gambling or whatever it is, you know, that we're just putting in general fund, that way we're letting those people pay for it instead of taxpayers. And I think, you know, there's probably, you know, $1,500 there or something.
There is, you do have a motion from commission that those funds are going to parks. So I don't know if you want to just procedurally unwind that and make a change, but you can. Your county commission, you can do,
My motion is for you to
Come up
recommend the
with it, yeah.
funding.
okay. I'll get with Robbie on that.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I would just say I'm happy with whatever the mayor picks as far as, any of them were top notch. So
Yeah.
whatever she chooses, I'm good with. I mean, really.
One last thing is go Mavs, go Dragons, and go Oliver Springs.
Yeah.
Go Bobcats.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've ever had 4 Anderson County teams make it to the second round.
Yeah, that was impressive.
They got 3 going for the 3rd round.
Yeah. All right, nothing else, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.